Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. It's been over a year since I made a video like this, so I thought it was definitely time for an up-to-date houseplant tour, and I have got a lot to take you through. I've got lots of really amazing plants, some very exciting things to show you, and I'm genuinely looking forward to this so much. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire, and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learned over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And there's a lot of plants to get through today, so this is probably going to be quite a long video, so by all means make a cup of tea, grab some plants to repot, whatever floats your boat. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So this is what it's currently looking like in here. If you watched my houseplant tour from last year, then you'll probably notice some pretty major changes straight off the bat. Okay, let's start right in the middle here, and that way we can begin and end the tour with some of my favourite plants. I wanted to show you all of the plants in the positions that I actually grow them in, so you can get an idea of lighting requirements and stuff like that. But I am just going to pull this one out so I can show you her better, because it's a little bit squished here. So I thought we'd start off with one of the plants in my collection that I am the proudest of. This is my large form Monstera and I have grown this plant since it was about that big. If I can find a picture, I'll put it on the screen somewhere. And I think probably out of all of the plants in my collection, this is the one that I feel like I've really been able to bring out the best potential in so far. I feel like the way in which this one's growing is the most representative of perhaps how it would be growing in its natural habitat. I've also got a section of my Monstera the shingling version on a plank just over there that we will come to shortly. But last year when this one really started to size up, I decided to add an extension of moss pole onto the back of the plank so that this plant could root into it. And then essentially when I chopped the plant, I didn't have to start a propagation process all over again. The plant was already rooted. I just potted it straight up, and it took a little while to get going. But as you can tell by the size of her now, she's literally taller than me. And to be honest, I think I'm probably going to have to chop this plant soon. I really don't want to have to do it, but considering she's growing about 30 centimetres, or actually probably even more than that, about 40 centimetres per new leaf, I don't have enough space to be able to grow a plant that big. I wish I did, but currently I just don't. So yeah, I thought I would show you her in all of her glory today. And I may have to make some chops at some point in the next month or two. But yeah, I'm just going to move this one back into her position, and then I will take you around to the other plants. And then next to my Monstera just on the floor, I've got this little Rhaphidophora foraminifera, and I haven't had this one that long. I think I've had it about 6 months in total, and I picked this up as a cutting at a plant swap last year, and already it's given me some amazing growth. It wasn't a top cut I got, it was just a mid cut, and this was the only leaf it had at the time. But as you can see, it's giving me some really beautiful growth now that it's got going. And I've recently put it onto a moss pole, and it hasn't actually started to root into the pole yet. It's just kind of growing next to the pole. I should really actually tie it to the pole and try and encourage its aerial roots in a little bit. But I'm just really excited for this one, because as it sizes up, it starts to get the most beautiful fenestrations that run all the way down the middle of the leaf. If I can find a picture, I'll pop it on the screen so that you can see. But yeah, I'm just really excited for the potential of this plant. So it's growing well for me so far. It hasn't given me any grief. It's another one as well, as you can see, that I am growing in semi-hydroponics. So I've got it in LADYBIRD pond, and then I've just got a little water reservoir at the bottom, and it feeds from that. And I have had questions from you guys before about how you use moss poles with semi-hydro, because obviously moss is an organic matter, semi-hydro is not. And I basically just don't allow the moss and the semi-hydro to really come into contact. I only fill my moss pole to the bottom there, to the point where it meets the top of the semi-hydro. It doesn't go all the way down, and for that reason I haven't had any issues at all doing things this way. And then just next to it here, I've got my Philodendron gigas, and I just love how these new leaves are coming in. Just look at the colour of them. They are so beautiful. And this is in fact another one that I haven't had that long. I got it as cuttings at another plant swap last year. And despite the fact that I only potted the cuttings up a couple of months ago, I'm just looking at the back of the moss pole now and I can actually see that it's got some really fantastic roots in there, which to be honest, I hadn't noticed. So I'm really, really happy to see that this plant is starting to attach to the moss pole and it is getting going, because this one again has the potential to grow to be huge. So I'm very, very, very excited to be growing this one. It's a plant that previously I'd never owned before. And although it is growing really well for me, I can see it's getting ready to give me some new growth just there as well. I'm just looking at these new leaves and I can see some discoloration on them, which to me looks pest related. And although I can't actually see any pests as such, I think I should probably get this one through to the shower and probably give it a little wash down with horticultural soap just to be on the safe side, because I have had pests in my collection fairly recently and I do not want this one to be eaten. So yes, I'm going to put this to one side and I will deal with this after the video. And then just down here, I've got a sphagnum moss propagation box, and this is where I'm propagating some of my Alocasia portadora corms. And as you can see, some of them are already starting to sprout. There's some in here that are rooting. I've got a lot of Alocasia corms, which you'll see as we go round, but oh my goodness, when I repotted the mother plant of this, I think there was either 27 or 28 corms that I took out and I'm now propagating, which is absolutely crazy. In one sitting, that's just insane. So I don't typically propagate Alocasia corms like this, but I thought seeing as I had so many, I would just try them in a few different ways. And so far it is working. I know in the past I have found that they can be a little bit susceptible to rotting like this, but I just haven't been keeping the moss too damp and I haven't really uncovered it in weeks, to be honest. It's just been like this by the window, very happy. So yeah, those are some that I hope to pass along to some new homes this year, because oh my goodness, you'll see my mother plant in a minute, but the Alocasia portadora is ginormous and I definitely can't fit any more in my space. And then here next to it, I've just got a Ficus lyrata, a fiddle leaf fig, and this one's doing okay, but to be honest, it is one that I neglect quite a lot. I think just because once you found a spot that this plant is happy, it doesn't require a huge amount of care. But for that reason, I do feel like there's potentially some issues that I'm overlooking. As you can see, it's lost a lot of leaves down the bottom of the plant, and to be honest, that has been like that for at least a year. It's been like that since I've lived in this place, and I've been here for almost a year and a half now. So it's been like this for a while. That's nothing new, but it hasn't given me any new growth in about 6 months, which is quite unusual, especially considering the spot I'm growing it in. So yeah, I probably need to get in there and have a look at the roots and potentially change some things up at some point. Also, I do apologise for the eyesore, which is the rug on the balcony. If you are not new to my channel, you'll know that that rug has been there for at least 4 months now, and I feel very bad about it, but I still haven't gotten around to do anything about it, so it is staying there for now. Moving on to this little Euphorbia trigona, and this is such a gorgeous little Euphorbia, but to be honest, it's only started doing stuff for me in literally like the last couple of months. Again, you'll be seeing a lot of plant swap plants in my collection, but this is one I picked up last year, and it was literally just like a clean cut of Euphorbia, and I allowed it to callus over for I think about a month in total. I shouldn't really have left it that long, but I left it about a month, and because it had been chopped at the top here as well, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to grow or how many branches it was going to give me. And it's already got these little 2 branches here, but I can see as well it's also just starting to put out that one, so I feel like it's going to be a big beefy euphorbia once it gets going. So yeah, I absolutely love my euphorbias. You will see quite a few as we go around, and although they look like cacti, they're actually not. They're succulents, and they are pretty fast growing succulents, so I'm hoping that one is going to give me some insane growth this year. And then coming over to my first set of shelves here, I've got, oh my goodness, as you can see, I've got a lot crammed in here. I've got a lot, it's really hard to know where to start. But here I've just got a little variegated bear paw cactus. To be honest, it's not doing a huge amount for me at the moment. It was bigger, I dropped it, it snapped. Now I'm propagating it. It hasn't died, but it's not doing a huge amount. And next to it, I've got my just my non-variegated normal bear paw cactus, and oh my goodness, this plant has brought me the most insane amount of joy over this last year. It actually started flowering for me last year, and I was taking photos of it, and I somehow managed to, again, honestly, I think I'm jinxed with this type of plant, but I dropped it and it broke, and I lost so many of those gorgeous big bear paw leaves, and I was devastated at the time. But as it started to grow back, as you can see, the growth it's giving me is actually much fuller. So to be honest, I'm kind of in a way glad that it happened, because I think long term the plant is just going to be much more appealing, appealing to look at. I also just love how fuzzy this one is. Like, its little leaves are velvet soft. It is just adorable. And then next to it, I've got one of my Hoya latifolias, and this one again is just growing very happily in semi-hydro. And I just love this Hoya. I love the shape of its leaves. I think they're so beautiful. I love the little tips of the leaf. They're almost like, I don't know, they're almost like little water droplets. And I think they're just so delicate and dainty and beautiful. And as you can see, I have just wound this one going around the side of my shelves. And typically, I know this kind of Hoya does like to grow on a trellis. And I haven't been able to decide what kind of trellis I'd like to do for it yet. So in the meantime, while I decide, it is just winding around in this way. And it's important to say that if you are going to trellis your Hoyas, whether you're doing it like I'm doing it or whether you're doing it in a more conventional trellis way, make sure you wind the tendril anti-clockwise, just because this is the way that Hoyas naturally tend to wind. And if you do it clockwise, then you're actually not going to be doing your plant any favours, and you could actually slow down their growth. But behind it, I've just got what I think is some type of aloe vera. If you do have an idea on this plant, please let me know, because I'm actually not 100%. It's not doing a huge amount for me so far. I mean, it's giving me some growth, but as you can see, it is still very small. Not a huge amount to say about that one yet. But then behind it, I've got a variegated jade plant, and I just think that jade is such an underrated houseplant. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. It's so hardy, it's relatively fast growing, and I saw this little variegated one at a garden centre a while back, and I was just like, oh my goodness, not that I need another jade, but I don't have a variegated one, and I feel like I just need this plant in my life. And it's got such a lovely balance of variegation, this one. Obviously it's not highly variegated, but it's just got little strips of variegation across a lot of the leaves. But because of this, of course, it doesn't contain as much chlorophyll, so it does require slightly higher lighting conditions than my other jade plant, for example. But yeah, hence why this one is right up against the window. And then next to it, I've just got a little section of my variegated Euphorbia ingens. And the mother plant of this is, oh my goodness, it is one of my favourite plants. It's bigger than me now. It's absolutely insane. And that's a plant that I actually don't grow in this room anymore. And one of the big changes you'll notice from my houseplant tour last year to this year is that I have actually taken a lot of my lower maintenance plants and my bigger plants and put them through in the bedroom, just because this is the room that I tend to find easier to keep on top of in terms of plant care. I don't know why my motivation's not always there as much in the bedroom. I think because it's more of like a relaxed, sleepy space. But for that reason, plants such as euphorbias that are much lower maintenance now live in that room. So if they do get a little bit neglected, it's not the end of the world. But Yoli actually knocked this one over a little while ago, hence why I'm propagating this little section. It did very sadly snap off. And it's too soon to tell whether or not it's actually taken. It's still a little bit wobbly in the soil, so I can't tell if it's actually rooting or not. But it hasn't started to rot. If you look at the bottom of the plant, it still looks very fresh and healthy and not brown or anything like that. So I'm hoping it should continue well for me. And just behind it here is actually something that I only re-stumbled across, should I say, the other day. And this is actually, if you just look in there, it's a teeny tiny Anthurium pallidiflorum. And I got this, I think, at a plant swap a couple of years ago, and I just put a little wet stick section into this makeshift little prop box, which I think used to just be a hummus tub, and I completely forgot about it. And obviously it hasn't done a huge amount in let's say I don't know, I genuinely want to say a year. But the fact it is now very slowly rooting and it is also giving me leaves is positive. I have actually since then got myself a larger Pallidiflorum that you'll see shortly, but I'm still going to try and grow this one nicely and hope that I can get it to size up and then potentially pot them together at some point. But then another euphorbia. This one was a wish list one and I only got this at the beginning of the year, but this is a euphorbia lactea white ghost, and similarly to the euphorbia, the variegated euphorbia ingens that I just showed you, it's got that beautiful almost stripiness to its variegation. And again, I'll put a picture on the screen if I can find one of what this plant looks like when it starts to branch and it's mature, because it is gorgeous. So although it hasn't done that much for me so far, again, it seems very happy where I've got it here. And yeah, hopefully it will give me some lovely growth this year. And then this one, you'll see a few of these in my collection. I've got a completely, I mean, very pretty, but as you can see, it's just ghost growth. This is one of my variegated Alocasia Frydek corms, and I've sprouted quite a lot of them. And so far, all of them are literally coming in like this, which, as I say, looks beautiful. But I spoke earlier about the fact that obviously white growth doesn't contain any chlorophyll, and that is the case with these ones. So essentially they're not able to absorb any energy, any food from the light that they're receiving. And so these gorgeous white leaves usually don't last very long. They usually last maybe a month, occasionally 2 if you're lucky. So I am hoping that this is going to start giving me some leaves with a nice balance of variegation like the mother plant, but currently it's just looking like this. And then this little one here is a Monstera adansonii Indonesian marble. And in my houseplant tour this time last year, you'll have seen that this one was growing much taller. It was on a moss pole at the time, and I think it was actually almost as tall as me, if I remember correctly. And I did decide to completely chop this one up, not because the plant wasn't doing well, but I just wasn't a massive fan of the way it was growing for me. And I do occasionally do this, to be honest, if I'm not totally in love with a plant, or if I feel like I could be doing something differently with it. Sometimes I just like having a complete reset and starting again. So I chopped it up, I started from scratch, and what you can see here is just a few of the cuttings now potted up together. And again, as you can see, this is another one that I am growing in semi-hydro. The plant seems very happy like that, but it is definitely due for a pot upgrade, let's say. As you can see, all of its roots are pushed up in there, and it does need a little bit more space. But I was just going to say as well, I'll show you how I fill the reservoirs for a lot of my little plants in semi-hydro. Sometimes I just find it easier than taking a watering can around to them. I find a watering can can be a little bit messy. I just get these squeegee bottles on Amazon, and you just squeeze them and the water fills up like that. And I just find it so much easier to do that. I don't know why, like mentally, I just feel like it helps me keep on top of stuff a little bit better. I don't know why that is, it just does. But I've got another one that's in what I think is a little whiskey glass next to it here, and I believe this is a Philodendron Florida Green, a very juvenile one. I can't remember, I honestly can't remember where I got this plant from. It's been in a prop box for a really long time, and I only transferred it to semi-hydro a couple of months ago, but it is starting to size up. It's giving me lovely growth. I know it's one that would benefit from being on a moss pole, so I should probably add that to my list of never-ending planty things to do and try and get it onto a moss pole at some point soon. But for the time being, it seems pretty happy. And then I've got this one, which is commonly known as the desert rose, and I haven't had this one very long at all, and I've never owned this type of plant before. So to be honest, I'm very much still learning. I've heard that it likes to be grown in a similar way to euphorbia, and as I've already mentioned, I'm slightly obsessed with euphorbias. So that's exactly what I've been doing so far. I've got it in a very well draining kind of sandy mix. I've been keeping it not consistently moist, but I haven't been allowing it to dry out as much as some of my cacti, for example. And yeah, it's getting very good light where it is, and all of the leaves that you can see here are brand new since it's been in my care, and I've only had it for a couple of months, so I would say that's pretty good going. If any of you know more about this plant or have any tips or anything like that, please feel free to comment them down below. And behind it, I've got one that I, to be honest, don't have a completely accurate ID on. I think from looking at it, this is potentially a Bilietier Atabapoense hybrid, but I'm not quite sure. So again, if you've got any theories, please let me know. I only say Atabapoense because obviously if you look at the back of it, it's got those gorgeous like purpley backs to the leaves. But whatever this type of philodendron is, it has been so ridiculously easy to grow. Honestly, I barely do anything to it and it has just never given me any grief at all. But also I do grow this one, as you can see, in semi-hydro, and I haven't completely filled its reservoir today just because I knew I was going to be taking it out and showing you, and its reservoir is actually a clear sandwich bag, and that's just purely because I didn't have another pot to hand and I was like, it just needs something to create a reservoir. Technically I could use a plastic bag, so that's what I've done. But yeah, it's growing very happily here. I did have it growing in slightly lower light before as well, and although it wasn't quite as quick to grow, it still was giving me lovely growth. So yeah, it's just been one. It's very easy, just seems to get on with it. And at the back here, I've also just got a little section of my fishbone cactus, which, as you can see, is growing really well for me. However, is very small compared to the last time you saw it in a houseplant tour. And very sadly, this one actually got thrips, and I had never experienced thrips on a succulent before, and they were proper adult thrips as well. And I just didn't notice them soon enough, and I ended up having to chop loads of the plant up. I propagated quite a few sections, and for that reason, I've now got various sections just dotted around my flat. I should really get them all potted together and get a lovely full plant going again. I don't really know why I haven't done that. But yeah, for the time being, this one is just growing as is, and seems pretty happy with life. And then here I've got a little Sansevieria Silver Flame, and this one I got at the beginning of the year, and so far it's doing well for me, but obviously Sansevieria is a fairly slow succulent to grow. And over the last couple of years, in fact, I've acquired some really beautiful varieties of Sansevieria, and I feel like Sansevieria gets a bit of a hard time because it's very commonly known as a beginner plant. It's very easy, it can survive in lower light, all this sort of stuff. And I feel like for that reason, they're just thought of a lot of the time as very bog standard, not very interesting plants. But you'll see as we go around, I've got some beautiful varieties in my collection, and there's a lot that are on my wish list as well, ones that I hope to acquire this year. And so yeah, I was super happy when I received this Silver Flame. This was actually very kindly sent to me by one of you guys, so thank you so much. I love it, I think it's gorgeous. Oh, and then coming up to this shelf. So I've seen something already on the shelf that I am excited to show you because it's only started happening today. And this is a plant that I actually have not shown you before. This is a Biophytum sensitivum, and it's a plant that I've wanted for a really long time. It essentially just looks like a tiny mini palm tree. And I got this very recently from Grow Tropicals, which I've banged on about before. Grow Tropicals are amazing. I have also got a discount code for them, so I will link that down in the description box below. But I saw when I first got this plant that it was flowering, and I've just noticed that it's opened up this little seed pod. Can you see that? And it's got some little seeds in there. And from what I hear, and I didn't realize this before I got the plant, is that these plants typically don't live very long. They're annuals. And when they do start to go to seed, that's when you should essentially chop those flowers back. And that should help to prolong their lifespan a little bit. So that is 100% what I will be doing after I finish filming this video. I'm also going to collect the seeds so that hopefully I can replant them and get some lovely new plants of this going, because I would love to be able to have one of these in my collection at all times, and it does make me quite sad that they do die back. But the thing as well that is just so amazing about this plant, and I know that they do this is basically a stress response, so I don't do it very often, but I just want to show you for the purpose of this video. The reason it's called Biophytum sensitivum is because it is a very sensitive plant, and if you stroke its leaves, can you see? The plant actually starts to close up in response to that, which I think is just amazing. It's absolutely adorable. So yeah, it's one that I'm really excited to grow. I'm very excited to try and grow from seed as well, and I will make sure to keep you updated with it because it is one that I'm very much still learning about. And here I've got my Alocasia Regal Shield, which has to be one of the fastest growing alocasias I think I've ever owned. I got this as a teeny tiny baby plant last year, and as you can see already, its leaves are properly sizing up. It's another plant that's going to get very big very quickly, I think. But it is a very hardy alocasia. I would say it's probably been my easiest alocasia. Like typically, sometimes alocasias have a little bit of a reputation for being a bit finicky or doing the whole weird cycling thing, being very susceptible to pests, all of this sort of stuff. But this is one that has really given me no grief whatsoever and just continues to put out beautiful growth. I also just love how the backs of its leaves are so purpley. I think that's so gorgeous. So yeah, if you're fairly new to houseplants or fairly new to alocasias, it is 100% one that I would recommend. And at the back here, I've got a beautiful Anthurium that I've actually never shown you before. I've had this one a few months, but I've mentioned this in other videos, but I've got a few Anthuriums that I've been keeping back. I'm calling it my secret Anthurium collection, but just some that I am not showing and talking about online that much, just because I want to keep them just for me. But this is an Anthurium villanaurum, and I think it is just stunning. I love the symmetry in its leaves. I love the veination. It's very similar actually to the Peperomia sarcophylla, which is 100% like a duplicate of an Anthurium. It looks very Anthurium-y, but if you were to put them next to each other, they're not identical, but they've got a lot of similar features. But so far I found this one really easy to grow. It is, as you can see, getting ready to give me a new leaf just there, which I was kind of hoping might have started to unfurl before filming this video so that I could show you it, because its new leaves are adorable. But alas, it was not meant to be. But yeah, so far it's been very chilled, very easy, and yeah, I just think it's lovely. And I might need to start taking stuff off the shelf a little bit to show you because it's getting very hard to maneuver. But this is my variegated Alocasia Frydek. I have banged on about this one so many times in videos before because I just adore this plant. I got this one a couple of years ago now when it was very small, and out of all of my alocasias, I would say this is probably one of the ones, I only say one of the ones because I sat next to another one, but one of the ones that has been the most difficult for me. It's taken me quite a long time to really get my head around it and learn about this plant. For example, for a very long time when I first had it, I struggled to get it to size up at all. I struggled to get it to grow more than one leaf at a time. But over the course of this last year, I feel like I have learnt a lot about it and I figured out lots of ways to keep it happy. And finally, it is now consistently giving me beautiful growth. I know it's only got 3 leaves at the moment. I did do a little chop back of it a while ago because I did see some pest damage on a couple of the leaves. I couldn't see any pests themselves, but just to be on the safe side, I was like, you know what, they're older leaves, I may as well chop them and hope that nothing spreads, and touch wood, nothing has. But yeah, I just think its leaves are stunning. I love how they're all so different. Again, this is one that I think has just got the most beautiful balance of variegation, but this is also the one that I've collected the corms from, and the corms are purely giving me white growth. So hopefully at some point it'll give me some corms that will give me a lovely balance of variegation like this. I do hope so. And then behind that one, I've got my Alocasia Mitchellitziana, which is commonly known as the Alocasia Frydek, which is obviously a non-variegated version of that plant. And all of this one's leaves have really turned to face the window. I do need to rotate this plant more often, I know I do, but oh my goodness, I love the Alocasia Mitchellitziana so much. I love how dramatic its veination is. Like, it almost looks like a cartoon plant. I remember the first time I saw this Alocasia a few years ago, and I just thought, oh my God, I was like, is that real? Like, you see people making plants out of paper and like all sorts of creative things nowadays, and I was like, is that what someone's done with this plant? Because it doesn't look like it should exist in nature, if that makes sense. I haven't always found it the easiest, to be honest, but now I've got my head around it, it is actually probably one of my lowest maintenance alocasias. As with many of my alocasias, it is another one that I'm growing in semi-hydro. I'm growing it in Lechuza Pon, and that is honestly where I've turned a lot of corners with a lot of my trickier alocasias. And besides the fact that it keeps them very happy, it also just makes my life slightly easier. So yeah, if you're struggling with your alocasias, I would highly recommend giving semi-hydroponic growing a go, see how you get on with it. But yeah, I haven't repotted this one in a very long time, and I don't doubt that when I do, there's probably going to be lots and lots of corms, so I will probably have some babies at some point this year, which is very exciting. And then here I've got a little Philodendron silver sword. It is very teeny tiny at the moment, but I just think the colour of its leaves are so pretty. When they catch the light as well, they're almost metallic. I just think they're so lovely. And this one's doing okay. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet, to be honest. I've got so many silver swords in my collection nowadays because at one point I just became a little bit obsessive with them and started hoarding them and propagating them. But yeah, at the moment it's currently just growing like this. I'm just letting it grow pretty wild, and as I say, it seems pretty happy like that. And I've also got some Cebu Blue cuttings here, some Epipremnum Cebu Blue, and as you can see, they're still labelled up. I got these, I think these were plant swap ones as well, and they are starting to turn now. In fact, I think they are definitely long overdue to be potted up, so I should really get on and do that. In fact, the mother plant of this, which you'll see in a minute, is not that happy in my collection. And I do think that a lot of it just comes down to, I don't know, sometimes when you have a plant that is very easy to care for and doesn't require a huge amount of care, it can be quite easy to forget about it and overlook it. And I know I shouldn't do that, and I don't want to do that, but I think with both these cuttings and the mother plants, that has happened in this case. So yeah, what I'm hoping to do is pop these back up with the mother plant, get it looking a little bit fuller, a little bit healthier. And hopefully that will encourage me and motivate me to just get back on top of caring for it, because it is one that I love. It is one that I really love. But if you've got a big collection of houseplants, in my experience, there's going to be one or two. There's always going to be one or two that always fall under your radar a little bit. And currently, this is one of mine. And then at the back here, I've got, this is a Dieffenbachia, and I've only ever known this one referred to as Dieffenbachia sparkles, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, and I don't know the Latin name for it, so I'll either put it on the screen, or again, if you know, please let me know. But it's got really, really beautiful foliage. It's growing pretty well for me. Again, it's a very hardy plant. It hasn't really given me any grief, but I do know that this one has currently got fungus gnats, and the reason you can't see them buzzing about is purely because the soil is pretty much bone dry at the moment, and I've been waiting for it to dry out because I want to go in with a nematode treatment. I've spoken about it before, but for me, nematodes are like the best possible thing for getting rid of fungus gnats. But every single time I watered this plant, I have noticed lots of little flies starting to fly about, and I've noticed them a little bit throughout my house as well. So yeah, the next time I water this, which will probably be later today, that is what I'm going to be doing. Oh, and I've just seen a little cutting of Scindapsus exotica that I obviously put here to propagate and have completely forgotten about. So again, I'm going to put that to one side and chop it up and prop box that shortly. But this one here is a Hoya obovata variegata, a variegated Hoya obovata. And again, this is another one I've currently just got growing in semi-hydro in, I think, just an old humus container. And it's doing pretty well for me. It's given me quite a lot of growth in the time that I've had it. I got this one for my birthday, which was back in September. So, oh my God, 6 months ago now. And I think it only had 3 or 4 leaves when I got it. And as you can see, it is actually starting to give me 2 new leaves, yay. Yeah, it has given me quite a lot of new growth, and I love the unpredictability with this plant. Like, obviously it's got beautiful variegation, but also its leaves are just a little bit warped and weird. And when you've got a lot of houseplants that tend to be quite predictable, I find this just, I don't know, I just find it quite exciting. So yeah, it's one that I'm really enjoying growing. And then moving up to these shelves here, I've got my variegated Hoya SP Burtonate AF, and I know that's a bit of a mouthful. I actually had the non-variegated variety of this plant in my collection I've actually had it for a couple of years now, and it's a plant that I absolutely love. You'll see it shortly when we come to it. But I was on a hunt to try and track down a variegated variety. And again, one of you guys very kindly sent me this, and I am just in love with it. I think it's so beautiful. It's not the fastest grower in the world, but when it does give you growth, I find it to be a very rewarding one to grow. So yeah, I've only had it a couple of months, but it seems to be doing well so far. And then next to it, I've just got some string of pearls cuttings propagating in water. As you can see, they are starting to root. The mother plant's doing okay, but it did suffer some cold damage, so I thought I'd take some cuttings just to be on the safe side, and I'm glad to see that they are actually starting to do something for me because I love the string of pearls. And then this one here is growing in perhaps a slightly unconventional way. It's the Philodendron Paraiso Verde, but as you can see, it's very weird and wacky, and its growth is kind of going out in lots of different directions. It's one that I know would much prefer to be growing on a moss pole, but to be honest, I've got so many sections of the Paraiso Verde. I propagated so many bits. I'm just letting this one do its own thing and just, as I say, grow a little bit wild, and I really don't mind it like that at all. I think when I look at this area, like stand back and look at it, I quite like seeing plants kind of, I don't know, just doing unusual and not quite uniform things. Like I've got lots growing upright on moss poles, and when I see one just a little bit wacky like this, I don't know, it just makes me happy. So yeah, it's hanging off my shelf at the moment, and I don't really have any plans to change how it's growing. It seems pretty happy like this. It's giving me lots of lovely growth in this way. But then behind it is a Hoya that I am, oh my God, I am absolutely obsessed with. This is the Hoya undulata red. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you'll know that I had a big version of this plant up until about a year ago, and I very sadly lost the mother plant. And it's one that you just don't see very much, like readily available here in the UK. It's quite hard to even get cuttings of this plant. So this was one that I got as an import. But if you look at its leaves, they're so almost like prehistoric, and this type of Hoya is definitely the Hoya that got me into like weirder plants, because I know this isn't perhaps what you would describe as conventionally beautiful, but I just find it really enjoyable to grow. I find all of its new growth super rewarding. I love how the undersides of its leaves are really purpley. I just think it's gorgeous. It ticks so many boxes for me, and although it's definitely not the fastest grower, it's one that really excites me. And then here next to it is one of my favourite plants. This is the Peperomia Hope. And I have banged on about this plant, I swear to God, for years and years and years, because I think it's such an underrated houseplant. And I personally think it's one that everyone should have in their collection. It just makes me so happy. It's pretty easy to grow, assuming you keep it in quite high light as well. It's fairly fast growing. Like I chopped this one back about a month ago, and already it's starting to put out so much new growth. If you look at all of the top there, that is all new growth. And the one thing that I have found with this plant is when you keep it in lower lighting conditions, and also when you don't get the consistency with your watering right, its growth can get quite small and stretched. Hence why, actually one of the reasons being, hence why I chopped mine back. Because yeah, I just wanted to help get it to size up and produce leaves that are like that, like quite big and succulent and lovely. And so far it's worked very well. So yeah, it's living right in my window here. It seems very happy, and I'm really hoping I can grow it lovely and big and full this year. And this little one, this is one of my baby Anthurium clarinerviums, and this is the one that's probably doing the best for me at the moment. I've got about 80 seedlings in my care right now. I pollinated one of my mother plants a couple of years ago, and I got loads and loads of berries from it. So now I have just got lots and lots and lots of plants. And I just think the little clarinervium is adorable. You can see this leaf here is really starting to kind of develop that lovely veination and take on more of the clarinervium form, because initially, and you'll see it with some of my other younger seedlings as we go round, initially it's quite hard to tell what they are. They don't have a lot of the defining characteristics that you would think of when you hear clarinervium. And to be honest, you don't actually, or where I'm from at least, you don't actually see baby Anthurium clarinerviums that often, despite the fact that they're probably one of the most common, rarer Anthuriums here in the UK. They're kind of like baby pigeons, you just don't see them. You know they must be there, but you just don't see them about that much. So yeah, I'm enjoying growing them, and this one has rooted amazingly. Look at those beefy roots. It seems really happy. So yeah, it's one that I'm very proud of, very excited about. And then this little one here is a Hoya dasyantha. Not a huge amount to show you here yet because it is just the one leaf. It hasn't started doing anything else for me. I am rooting it in semi-hydro, the Sledchusa pond, and actually I really need to fill its reservoir. As you can see, it is completely empty, but it has rooted and this leaf's feeling lovely and succulent and plump. So yeah, just waiting for it to do something interesting. And then I've got another variegated Frydek that is, as you can see, complete ghost growth. It does look beautiful, as I said about the last one, but annoyingly, it's just not sustainable. So again, it's really one I'm really hoping starts to give me a little balance of green at some point soon. But this one is actually weirdly sizing up quite a lot. You can see compared to the other one, the growth is actually quite big. But yeah, no green. And then this is an exciting one. This is one again that I haven't shown you before. It is, and I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly, a Gymnocalycium or Gymnocalycium? Gymnocalycium. That's how I'm saying it, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And this is another one that I got from Grow Tropicals fairly recently. And as you may know if you watch my channel, I'm not typically a massive fan of like ultra colourful houseplants. I tend to like my plants to be green. I like different textures and different shades of green, but I don't typically go in for like bright, garish colours. And this one is an exception. I saw this one and I just fell in love. I think it is so pretty and so like weird and alien-y, so I'm really excited to grow it. I'm really excited to see what it does for me. As far as I know, it's not a particularly fast grower, and again, as I said earlier, because it has got quite a high balance of variegation, that can mean that plants are just that little bit slower to grow on the whole anyway, because they don't contain as much chlorophyll. But I just love looking at it. I can't stop just like picking it up and staring at it because it's so incredible. So yeah, it's one that I feel very lucky to own, and I'll be excited to look back on this time next year and compare its growth and see what it's done for me in a year. And then this one, I'm not entirely sure what this is. I'm gonna say it's a baby Philodendron melanochrysum. That's what I thought it was when I first took it out of the prop box, but as it's starting to size up, I'm not entirely sure. So again, I know it's very early days and it can be quite hard to tell until a plant's kind of developed a more mature form, but if you have got any theories, do let me know. I don't know if any of you find this, but sometimes when I just chuck a load of wet sticks into a prop box or I don't label things properly, I'll come back to them like 3-4 months down the line and I'll be like, what is everything? I don't even know. So yeah, to my knowledge, it's a melanochrysum. It's very pretty, whatever it is, but yeah. And then coming back here again, this is some sections of my Hoya macrophylla. And again, you'll see quite a few of these as we go round throughout my collection, because I had a really big, beautiful Hoya macrophylla up until 5 months ago, let's say, and then it just started to look very deflated. I thought perhaps it could be flat mite related, but I couldn't see anything. I looked under a microscope, there was nothing obvious. And you know what I said earlier about if a plant is sometimes not doing exactly what I want it to be doing, I will chop it back to nothing and I will reset it. That is essentially what I did with this one. I completely chopped it up. I propagated different sections in different ways. These ones here are just in soil, but as you can see, it is giving me some lovely new growth. So yeah, the plant does seem to be happy and healthy again. And I might pot all the sections together, I'm not entirely sure. Then again, I might also take some bits to plant swaps this year and try and see what I can trade. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, I'm very happy that it is now doing well for me. And then this one at the back is my Ficus schweriana, and it is such a beautiful variety of rubber plant. I think its colours and its variegation are just stunning. But it's only very recently started actually giving me new growth again. It's one that sat dormant in my collection for a very long time. And at one point I kind of felt like I might be falling out of love with. Not that I need all of my plants to be like ridiculously fast growing all the time, but I think sometimes if you've got a plant that you're caring for and it's kind of not giving you anything back, it can be a little bit frustrating. And I did feel that about this plant. However, now I've moved it to higher light, it does seem much happier. And as you can see here, it is just starting to give me a new leaf. I've got a little one unfurling just there. But yeah, I love the balance of variegation that my one's got. I love how it's got lots of like darker green patches on its leaves. And I have seen some people that have got this plant where their plant has completely reverted and it's gone back to being almost completely dark green with just strips of like aurea variegation like this. And I actually really like that. I know some people are gutted when that happens, but I personally wouldn't be too mad about it if this plant did that. So I'm not willing it to revert, but if it did, I wouldn't be too unhappy about it. And then this one here again is a little bit of a mystery plant. I'm pretty sure it's a Hoya caudata sumatra, and again I've got several sections of this plant in my collection. I'm not quite sure why I would have just taken like a wet stick cutting of it though. That's what I'm not entirely sure about, because as you can see it is just in fact a not particularly stable wet stick that's been like this for about 6 months. And yeah, I don't remember taking this cutting, so I'm just a little bit like, is that what it is? But I think it is. It looks the most similar to that type of Hoya. So yeah, I'm gonna wait and see if it does anything for me, and then I'll assess the situation and see what I might need to do next. But then I've got another little Hoya next to it, and this is one that I don't talk about that much. This is a Hoya AH074, and the only reason I don't speak about this one more is just because it's very slow growing and it hasn't really changed that much in the time that I've had it. Like, it hasn't really given me that much new growth. I think one of its leaves is a new leaf. And I've had this one for about a year now, I think. But it's a beautiful, beautiful Hoya. I really do love it. And I really hope that this year it starts doing a little bit more for me. In fact, if I take it out of that pot, you might be able to see a little bit better. The sun's shining at a weird angle, so it's kind of hard to show you. But look how beautiful and splashy that is. It's such a gorgeous one. And then finally on this shelf, I've got my Rhaphidophora decursiva, and this is another one that I picked up at a plant swap. And to be honest, I'm not loving this plant. It's growing well, but I'm pretty sure from what I can see, it's a crawler. As you can see, it's just coming out of the plant there. And I just don't really have the space. I don't have the space to grow crawling plants that I'm not totally in love with. Like, I have got a couple of crawlers in my collection, but those ones, they grow very big. They take up quite a lot of space. And this is one that I just currently don't feel like I'm willing to make space for. So I think it is probably going to be coming back to a plant swap with me this year, but it's lovely. And if I had a little bit more space in my house, I might consider keeping it. But I don't think there's any shame in passing on plants that you're not totally in love with. And as I say, this one, I am not totally in love with. Oh, and before we go up to the top shelf, I was going to say as well, I get quite a lot of questions about what I use for pest control. And currently I'm doing things as naturally as I possibly can. These are Amblysius cucumaris, which are predatory mites. These ones specifically are for thrips, because I have had thrips in my collection quite recently. And I do find them to be a very effective method of pest control. I know some people hear predatory mite and they get a bit freaked out. They're honestly nothing to be scared of. You don't even know they're there. You can't see them. I have made videos on this before, so I'll link it down below if you want a little bit more information. But honestly, in my opinion, it's a really good way of doing things. But then coming up to the top shelf, where should we start? Let's start with this one. This is my Anthurium vitarifolium, and when I first put this one onto the top shelf here a couple of months ago, all of its growth was facing that way, and it looked so beautiful just trailing down into the room, but it is one that chases the light really quite quickly. So as you can see, all of its leaves are kind of going out at weird angles at the moment, and it has just started to give me a new leaf here as well, which is coming in at an even weirder angle. So really, I think I just need to get a little bit better at rotating this plant. But I've said it before, I am just such a sucker for strappy plants, like strappy Anthuriums. There's something about their foliage that just gets me. I think it is so incredibly beautiful. And the thing I love with, I mean, all Anthuriums, but particularly strappy ones, is their little leaves as they come in, how they not only get bigger and bigger as they mature, but also just like the length, how it can increase. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that little one in a week or two was longer than this leaf, for example. It's just crazy. And I really enjoy watching that. I just find it very satisfying. But yeah, this is one that I just absolutely adore. I think it's so gorgeous. I love like the texture of it. I bang on about it all the time, but like the texture with different plants is something that just makes me really happy. Like when I look at all my plants as a whole, I just really like to see the individuality in my plants without just looking at like a plain sea of green. So yeah, texture is something that I absolutely love, and this one ticks so many boxes in that department. And then behind it here, I've got my Philodendron El Choco Red, which as you can see, currently only has one leaf. When I first got this plant, I think it had 3 leaves, and this was last year. And to be honest, I got this plant at a time where I was suffering a little bit with plant burnout. I was just feeling very overwhelmed by a lot of things in my collection, and I wasn't in the best place to be able to learn about a new plant and take on its care needs. And for that reason, the plant just did not do well for me. It got pests, and I left it way too long before I treated it. So again, it's another one that I completely chopped back and decided to reset. And again, I'm really glad that I have, because this leaf it's given me, just look at the back of the leaf, it's so beautiful. But this leaf looks really healthy, really happy. And I'm hoping that this has now reset the plant to a place where it is just going to give me gorgeous growth and be a lot healthier having had the chop back. I've currently just still got it in sphagnum moss, which is how I propagated it. And as you can see, it's got really lovely roots in there. It probably is ready, to be honest, to be transferred to soil or semi-hydro. I'm not entirely sure how I plan on growing this plant yet, but I do know that it is one that will need to be on a moss pole. So that is definitely something to go onto my list. But yeah, it's one that I'm super excited to grow, and I think it is just stunning. And then next to it in this little milkshake cup is my Alocasia Green Shield. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful Alocasia. I got this one from my friend Emma, I think either last year or the year before. And it's given me the most ridiculous amount of corms. Again, as we go around, you will see lots and lots of babies of this plant, because similar to my Alocasia portadora, at one point I think it had about 12 corms on it. And if you look at the size of this plant, it's not a big plant, so I thought that was pretty impressive. But yeah, I just love the like alienness of this one. It's got weirdly, like actually looking at it in the sun here is quite a good light to see it in, but it's got weirdly shadowed veination. Like it's not dramatically dark, but it's just a really cool plant. And as you can see, it is getting ready to give me, or in fact, it's pretty much unfurled now, a new little leaf just here. So yeah, it's living happily by the window in its little milkshake cup, and I think my plans next for this plant is probably to pot up some of the little babies with it so that I can get a bigger, fuller plant going, because obviously this is just a little bit sparse at the moment. But for the time being, it seems very happy. And then another one that I've never shown you before, and this one, as you can see, has got some stuff going on. This is an Anthurium Angamarcanum, and it's an Anthurium that I wanted for such a long time. As I said earlier, I'm really trying to challenge myself this year and learn more about different types of Anthuriums and see what works, see what doesn't, kind of test things out on lots of different species within the genus. And this is one that I have heard can be quite difficult to grow. And I've actually only had it about a month, and hence why this leaf here is obviously getting ready to die back. It's very yellow, it's going very brown, and I think this is probably primarily acclimation issues, but I can also see a few little spots just there, which I think could be a few things. I suspect it's either acclimation related, it could be cold damage because this plant was shipped to me when it was quite cold, but also I think it could just be down to inconsistent watering, and I don't feel like I've been watering inconsistently, but it could just be that this one has very specific watering requirements that I have not learnt about yet. So yeah, as I say, it's trial and error. But this one's also, as you can see, a vining Anthurium, so it would absolutely benefit from being on a moss pole. And actually, what I've done at the moment is I've just taken a little cup and I've stuffed some tree fern fibre in there, and I'm keeping that hydrated so that obviously the aerial roots can absorb lots of micronutrients, hopefully start to put out some roots, and then when I do come to putting it onto a moss pole, or if I was to come to chop and propagate the plant, I would have a little root system to go off. And I only did this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, but as you can see, if you look at the bottom there, maybe it'll show up on camera, you can see it has already started to put out some aerial roots, which is really, really encouraging. So yeah, I'm excited to learn more about this plant because I think it is gorgeous. I just don't feel like I know it yet. And then next up, I've got my Anthurium crystallinum magnificum hybrid, and just picking this plant up, I can feel the pot is so light, and this new leaf it's giving me, look how floppy it is. This plant is so dehydrated, so oh my goodness, I need to stop what I'm doing in a minute and go and give it a water. We're suddenly having a weird heat wave in the UK. Like, I'm filming this right at the beginning of March, but it's like 1 minute it's chucking it down with rain, and then it's really warm and sunny, and yeah, my plants just don't know what's going on. So yeah, this one is in desperate need of a water, but I think it is just a really, really lovely Anthurium. I love the crystallinum, I love the magnificum, and depending on the gene pool of this plant, if this is anything like the magnificum, it will grow to be huge. I'll come to my Anthurium magnificum in a minute, but its current leaf is about that big. So I'm not quite sure what I'll do if it gets that big because I am limited on space. But I just think it's such a lovely hybrid. I love its veination. I love how dark and dramatic it is. And it has so far for me been incredibly easy to grow as well. And then again, not a huge amount to show with this one yet, but I've got a little Hoya meredithii here. It has rooted. When I first got this one, it was very floppy. Again, it had been shipped to me when it was very cold, and I didn't quite know if it was going to make it. And one of the leaves it came with did die back. But this one, now that I've potted it up and it's getting good light, good heat, good humidity, it does seem pretty happy. So hopefully at some point soon, it'll start to give me some lovely growth. But it's just got beautiful veination, and it's like no other Hoya that I own. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about that one. And not a lot to show here, just another Anthurium clarinervium seedling. And like I said earlier about the fact that they don't get a lot of their characteristics until they size up a little bit, you can kind of see what I mean. This looks just kind of like bog standard seedling at the moment. Oh, but it has got a new little leaf coming up there, which is exciting. And then the final plant I've got on my shelf here is the Anthurium doriaci. And again, as you can see, this one is starting to give me a lovely new leaf. And I got this from my friend Emma last year, who was growing it very well, but it just wasn't making her that happy. And I don't quite know how I feel about it yet, to be honest. I love doriaci hybrids, and I've got a couple in my collection, but in its pure form, I think it's lovely, and I think its leaves are gorgeous. But it just, I don't know, like every single time its leaves size up, they seem to like split and break, and I'm not quite sure why that is. Like if you look at like any of its older leaves, you can tell they just look a little bit battered. And I don't think that's anything down to what I've done. It just seems to be the way that the plant grows. So yeah, I'm a little bit undecided with this one. I'm gonna continue to grow it for, I don't know, maybe another 6 months or so, look at the growth it's giving me, see if maybe it would be more suited to someone else's environment, and then I'll make my decision from there. But yeah, for the time being, it's very much facing one way. It's another one that I'm very bad at remembering to turn, but it seems pretty happy. It seems pretty happy. And then coming down here, I've got my Aglaonema tigress, and I absolutely love this Aglaonema. I think its leaves are just stunning. But you might be able to notice that this one is not as full as she once was, and this is one of the plants in my collection that was really badly affected by thrips. So she's had a pretty major chop back. But I have all the faith that this one will bounce back because Aglaonema is such a hardy genus. It's one of the reasons I love them so much. But yeah, that's currently what she's looking like. And then next to her here, I've got my Tenanthe setosa, and again, I just love this one. I love the foliage of it. I think it is so beautiful. It's in the Marantaceae family and is therefore closely related to Calatheas, and for that reason, I think a lot of people tend to assume that this is quite a difficult, dramatic plant, and honestly, it has been one of the easiest in my opinion. It's one that I've got growing in semi-hydroponics. Again, I feel like this is just a really good way of doing it. It just helps to regulate watering, and it seems really happy like that. I also just love how the undersides of its leaves are so purple. I think it is just so pretty. And it's also a plant that moves a lot. Like, I know all plants will move with the light slightly throughout the day, but in the evenings I often notice this one's leaves kind of pinging up and down. I just love prayer plants. I think they're really gorgeous. And here I decided to pot some of my Hoya pubicalyx splash cuttings in this little terrarium, and I just monitor its reservoir by taking it out and looking at the bottom there. I can see at the moment it needs filling because it's very dry, but these ones seem really happy in there. I can't like fully tilt them and show you because as you can see they are in semi-hydro and it just spills, but it's a really beautiful Hoya. I am just a sucker for splashy Hoyas. I think they are so pretty. But yeah, it seems very happy. And then next to it, I've got my Calathea orbifolia, which is not looking as big and full and lovely as it was this time last year when I showed you her. And again, this is a plant that I've had to give a pretty massive chop back to over the past year, again, due to pests. And she has, like, give her due, she has bounced back very well and she is looking pretty healthy now. But there have been a few hairy moments where I thought that maybe she wouldn't bounce back. So yeah, she's been more resilient than I thought she would be, but there's still a little way to go, I'd say. A little way to go until she's back to how she was before. And then coming up here, I've got a few different types of Hoya. I've got some Croniana super silver, and as you can see, they are just rooting in water at the moment. And I've also got some Hoya curtisii, and this little strand here is currently the only Hoya curtisii surviving in my collection, because that is a type of Hoya that I really, really struggle with. I think it is so beautiful. Like, I love the shape of its leaves, similar to what I said about the latifolia earlier. They're just very like, I don't know, almost like teardroppy. They're so pretty. And typically Hoya is a genus that I find very easy to grow. For some reason, the curtisii is just a drama queen. I tried her in semi-hydro, I tried her in soil, I tried her in lots of different lights, and nothing made her happy. So yeah, this is the only surviving cutting. And then moving up to my big Monstera deliciosa here. This is like a staple plant in my collection. It's one that I adore. I honestly can't imagine not having this plant in my collection. But it's another one that's been on a little bit of a journey since the last houseplant tour that I showed you her in. And I've spoken about this in so many videos since because I wish I had done things differently. But I put this plant outside on my balcony over summer because I wanted her to be able to get lots of light and just continue to size up. And because I didn't do the acclimation process properly, she burnt. And there's loads of bits on her leaves now that are actually completely dead. And I did something perhaps a little controversial and I would not recommend doing, but I decided to paint those sections of her leaf. And don't get me wrong, I would never usually do this, but those sections of the leaf, as you can see, were like completely dead. They were like brown and papery. I would have just chopped them off, but because I love the large form of her, I was like, you know what, why don't I just do this? Just aesthetically, it doesn't do the plant any favors, but I feel like it does me favors. So that's what I decided to do, and she is now growing really beautifully for me again. As you can see, she is getting ready to give me a new leaf and has actually continued to give me growth throughout all of the darker winter months. I know she has got a little grow light on her here, but not a lot of light. Like, this is a fairly low light corner. So yeah, just a very resilient and adaptable plant so long as you acclimate her properly. Oh, and I forgot about this one. This is just a little marble queen pothos. I have actually been potting up lots of my smaller plants with the mother plants to just kind of get them a little bit more full, and this is what I do plan on doing with this one. It also just makes my life a little bit easier because it means that there's less to maintain. So that's on my list of things to do. But I do also just quite like the look of her hanging here. Then coming down here next to my Monstera, I've got my Philodendron Jose Bueno, and I know I'm not probably growing this plant in the best way at the moment. I have just got it staked on a bamboo cane, and if you look at the back, you can see all of those area roots that are desperate to be gripping on and climbing something. So I should, again, really get this plant onto a moss pole. But nonetheless, it does seem very happy in the spot that I've got it in here, and it is really, really sizing up. Like, the size of its leaves and the scale of its growth is increasing much more than I thought it would, bearing in mind it's literally just getting, I mean, like, I would say 90% of its light from the grow light bar that I've got here. And this is another one that I have got growing in semi-hydro. Again, it seemed very happy like that, and I find it a really, really easy way of doing things. And the other thing that I love about this plant is that its variegation is so unpredictable, and it actually a little while ago gave me this leaf here. And if you look at that little patch there, loads of you said it looks like a little fish swimming, and it really does. I just find it a very fun plant to grow, and it's so hardy. It's such a hardy philodendron, very adaptable, ticks lots of boxes for me, and so yeah, I just love it. And I know I just mentioned my grow light bar, but some of you often ask me where I get it from, and this one here is from Mother Grow Lights. I'll link it down in the description box below, but I use these types of grow lights all around my home. I think they are absolutely fantastic. They keep my plants really happy. So yeah, as I say, we'll link them below. But then coming across here to my Alocasia portadora, this is the other one that I was referring to when I said had been not difficult to grow. Like I wouldn't describe this plant as difficult because it's actually probably one of my hardiest Alocasias. But I have just struggled with pests on this plant more than any other plant in my collection. And I've said it before, but this is actually probably my oldest plant in my collection. You wouldn't believe it just from looking at it, but it's actually been in my care for, I think, about 6 or 7 years now, and I've divided it so many times. And if you look at that base there, you can see it is just ginormous. But this plant has had every pest under the sun. Honestly, anything you can think of, even the weirdest, most obscure pests have hit this plant hard. And as I say, for that reason, I've chopped it back so many times, I've changed so many things up, and currently I'm pest treating it, even if it's just preventative, I'm pest treating it like once a week, which is a lot of effort, to be honest. And although I love the plant, it is one that I'm kind of contemplating kind of contemplating getting rid of, just because it's such a pain in the ass and I don't know what else to try. If you've got any theories at all or anything that you think might help, please let me know down in the comments. But it is beautiful. As you can see, it's starting to get ready to give me a new leaf here, and it sizes up really, really quickly. At one point, this plant was like almost double the size of me. So yeah, if I let it keep growing, it might be pesty, but it will get very big very quickly. And coming back to these plants over here, I've got a little Pilia peperomioides. Again, you'll see lots of these as we go around because the mother plant is constantly giving me babies. It's just growing in semi-hydro at the moment, and it seems very happy. And then just behind it, firstly, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge my pot because I love this pot. I made it out of clay. I'm very proud of it. But the plant that's growing inside it is my Hoya Bella Albo Marginata, I believe. And I think it's so pretty. It's so delicate. I love the Hoya Bella anyway, but this one, I mean, it's in the name, but has just got these lovely elbow margins, white edges. And I've actually just noticed it's getting ready to give me some new growth there as well, which is exciting because it has been fairly slow to grow. I know I've already said variegated plants can be a little bit slower, but this one really hasn't done that much for me in the time that I've had it. But it looks very pretty there. And then just behind it, I've got a cutting of my Hoya crinklate plant, and I took a load of cuttings of this plant last year because the mother plant got mealybugs very badly and I had to chop the whole thing up in order to kind of get her back to health. So again, lots and lots of cuttings, but I just think the crinklate is so gorgeous. I love how it's got such, again, it's in the name, but like crinkly leaves, like in the middle there, they're almost like abs. They're amazing. But again, another one in semi-hydro, very happy. And then I've got a little Mandula pothos, and again, I got this from one of you guys at the plant swap, the London plant swap last year. And oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I've gone this long as a plant parent without having a Mandula pothos before. I know it's not as rare perhaps as some of the other plants in my collection, but I would say it's one of my favourite plants. I think it is just gorgeous. And I know if I was growing it in slightly higher light, I probably would have less green on the leaves, and it probably would be slightly faster to grow as well because it has been fairly slow for me. But I just love the look of it here, and it's growing and it seems and looks happy and healthy. So that is where it's staying for the time being. And then behind it at the back here, partly there, in fact, primarily there to cover up the wires, is my variegated Hoya macrophylla. And this is such a lovely Hoya, but to be honest, it's not in the ideal spot there. As I say, it does cover up the fact that I have got wires running down the wall here, but it hasn't given me, I was going to say it hasn't given me any new growth since I put it there. However, I can see just at the top there, it is getting ready to give me some new growth, which is quite exciting. However, I do know that this would probably do better if I was to put it either in one of my cabinets or on my shelves or something like that. But it is lovely. I do love it. And next to it here, I've got my variegated Philodendron bell marks, and this one is just growing like crazy despite not being in the highest light. Again, as I say, I am filming this on a very bright sunny day, which is 100% an anomaly here in the UK, but usually this area here doesn't get that much light. It's probably considered more of a medium light area, and this being a variegated plant, again, it ideally would be getting slightly higher levels of light. You can see some of the growth it's given me has reverted, and to be honest, I love the standard bell marks and I'm not that fussed about variegated, oh, is that fair to say? I was going to say variegated plants. There's a lot of variegated plants that I know people go a little bit crazy for, and I'm just like, meh. But I'm just happy with how this one's growing, whether it's highly variegated or not. Its new growth just keeps me on my toes. I think it's very pretty. It's also, again, as you can see, growing in semi-hydro. It's got a wonderful root system on it there. And the container I'm using is actually an old candle jar that I just melted the wax out of and now I use for semi-hydro. And I absolutely love doing things this way, just because often if you use jars, they've got like a little bottleneck that goes in, meaning that when you try and take the plant out, its roots can get stuck. Whereas with these, they are just typically straight, and I find that very useful for planty things. But no, it's really gorgeous. I also just love having it here. I think it's so pretty to look at. It covers this little speaker thing as well, which I like. And I have thought about getting a grow bar, again, probably another mother grow light bar, and running it under the TV at some point, and then I could put higher light plants there. But I'm not decided on that yet. I'm not entirely sure. But next to the Philodendron bell marks is this little ZZ plant. I've got quite a few of these again in my collection, just dotted around. Not a huge amount to say about it. It's not doing much, but it seems pretty happy. And then I've got some of my Hoya Crimson Queens, which I potted up probably about 3 or 4 months ago now. This was at one point, in fact, probably when you saw it in the tour last year, a big, long, full trailing plant, and it got mealybugs. And again, like I've already said, I quite like sometimes chopping up plants to reset them and eliminate issues that way. So I decided to propagate loads of sections of it. They rooted amazingly in a prop box, and I have just potted them up fairly recently. So yeah, as of yet, it's not given me any new growth since it's been outside the prop box, and to be honest, it might do better in higher light again, but it seems happy and it looks healthy, so this is where it's living for the time being. And just a little honourable mention to Jack and Sally. Ross has been making lots of busts out of clay recently, and these are 2 of his most recent creations. And just behind Jack and Sally, I've got this Hoya, which I'm pretty sure is a Hoya, I don't know how to pronounce it, but a Hoya Ake SP Splash or something like that. I'll put the name on the screen. But this was very kindly sent to me with my import I did from Aroyd Market fairly recently. And to be honest, I can't work out whether I love it or hate it. It just, to me, looks very much like what you might just find growing on a bush here in the UK. And it's not exciting me in the same way as a lot of my other plants. So again, I think it's probably one that I'm going to pass on to a new home at some point. But it is giving me new growth. This here is a fairly new leaf, and I can see it is starting to tendril there as well. So it would probably benefit from a trellis. I don't have the motivation personally to do that for the plant. So yeah, I think I've just answered my own question. I need to find this one a new home. And at the back here, I've got one that is just really not happy at all. It might not look that bad, but this is my Peperomia obtusifolia. And up until recently, this plant was kind of branching. It was really full. It was really succulent. And now it just feels very kind of like deflated and squishy, and it's lost quite a few leaves, and I haven't taken the time to properly evaluate what could be going wrong. That's totally on me. I need to actually get this plant out and have a proper look at it. Oh, okay, right. I see what the problem is. I'll try and put some clips in of this, but this plant has actually got thrips. And in my experience, it's quite rare to see thrips on a peperomia because they are quite succulent plants. But yeah, it's got thrips. So that is what is going on. So I'm gonna go give my hands a little wash before I touch my other plants and isolate that plant and treat it later on. And the magic of editing means that you would have no idea that I just washed my hands, and we can move straight on to this next plant, which is an Epipremnum skeleton key. And firstly, I just want to say it's in one of my favourite pots. I absolutely love this pot, but I dropped it a few weeks ago and I was so sad about it. And Ross, bless his heart, sat and glued the whole thing back together, and I think it looks even more beautiful. But the Epipremnum skeleton key, this is perhaps not what you would think of when you hear skeleton key, because obviously I'll find a picture and I'll put it on the screen so that you can see. But typically the skeleton key has a very iconic form that people try to achieve. And I spent years trying to achieve that form in this plant. And when it started actually making those weird skeleton key shapes, I was like, it's difficult to maintain, and do I love it? I'm not sure I do. So nowadays I just grow it very similarly to how I grow my other Epipremnum, kind of just as like a hanging trailing plant. And it's very fast to grow. It's very low maintenance. I'm actually just growing this one in a little plastic cup in Lechuza Pon at the moment, and I've just got it in this as like a pot cover to make it look prettier. But yeah, the plant seems very happy in that way, and I just find it much lower maintenance than trying to achieve a form that I wasn't even that keen on, to be honest. I think it was just a plant trend thing that I wanted to try and do, and now I don't care. And coming up here, growing all the way along this wall and all the way up the beam, is my Epipremnum Marble Queen. And I spoke earlier about this plant. I absolutely love it. I've got lots of sections of it propagating around my home. It's been very easy to grow, very fast growing. It's such an adaptable plant. It can adapt to so many different conditions. It can survive in lower light. Honestly, I feel like it is just such a brilliant houseplant, and another one that I feel like my collection just wouldn't be complete without. And I'm training it to climb with these little twisty clip things. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but I just get them on Amazon. I'll link them down again in the description box below. But yeah, the plant seems really happy growing like this. You might notice it's got a section of vine there that doesn't have any leaves on at all, and that was a little drama I had at the end of last year due to a watering imbalance, and I did lose quite a lot of foliage. But touch wood, the plant is back to normal, back to health now, and does seem much happier. And just on top of my cabinet here, I've got another Sansevieria that I absolutely love. This one is a Sansevieria metallica, and the colour of this one's leaves is just beautiful. It's kind of like a silvery greeny blue, and it's so unusual. I know I said earlier about how sometimes I feel like people can have the misconception about Sansevieria that they're just very kind of bog standard, but this is one that I just feel like is just very unusual and very striking. Like, just look at the colours in that leaf. I think it's just lovely. And because it is a Sansevieria, I know also I'm calling it Sansevieria, technically it has been reclassified as Dracaena now. I'm very stuck in my ways and I still say Sansevieria, but you know what I mean. But because of the genus it is very, very adaptable. The spot I'm growing it in here is a very low light spot, and it hasn't got any grow lights or anything like that, and it is still giving me lots of lovely new growth. So yeah, it's just a really awesome plant. And then this I'm a little bit ashamed of. This is a very unhealthy, oh, there goes a leaf. In fact, I would say probably dying section of Hoya caudata sumatra. This one's just been propagating in moss, and I just let it dry out for way too long, and therefore, yep, the plant is looking like it's on its way out. But I have, however, got a much healthier section of this plant, which you'll see in my cabinet in a minute, so I absolutely can get it back to health. But yeah, I do feel a little bit bad about that. And then before I take you into my cabinet, I thought I would just take you through the hanging plants on this side of the room. And I know a lot of you ask about like how I get to my hanging plants, how I water them, all that sort of stuff. And I have got some fold out steps. So I climb up onto these and I get my hanging plants down. And that is what I'm going to do now so that I can show you them and talk you through them. So this first one here is the only one that actually I'm not going to get down and show you. It's my Scindapsus pictus exotica. And this one, the only reason I'm not going to take it down is just because I've wound lots of its vines around things. It's currently going over the curtain rail and it's a little bit of a mission. So with this one, when I water it, I do actually just leave it in its position here and I put a bowl underneath it to collect the water. I know you can get like little devices and stuff that you put onto the pots to help them to drain, but I have just found them to be a little bit messy, so that's how I like to do it. But I just think this Scindapsus is beautiful. It's commonly known as the satin pothos. I find it very easy to grow. It's very low maintenance for me. I only water this one like once every couple of weeks when its leaves are curling. So yeah, it doesn't require a huge amount of care. I think once you've found a spot where this plant's happy, then it is just kind of happy. Typically in the past when I've had Scindapsus that are giving me grief, it's usually not down to how I'm actually caring for them, but usually it is environmental. So yeah, that's what I've found with Scindapsus so far. And then hanging next to it, I've got this beautiful, beautiful Hoya carnosa. And this was very kindly given as cuttings to me at the beginning of last year by my friend Lottie's granddad. And oh my goodness, it's a plant that I just absolutely treasure. Previously, I'd never owned it, and I'm just really, really happy with how it's growing for me. It hasn't bloomed or anything like that just yet, but I'm really hoping that maybe this year it might. It is giving me some new growth, which is really positive, despite the fact it's not in a particularly highlight spot hanging here. But yeah, I just think it is stunning. I think it's so waxy and shiny and just gorgeous. Oh, and then this one's not very happy. This, I think, is a Dracaena lemon lime. I've had this one for a while. I've chopped it back several times. I'm actually trying to propagate a section of it over there at the moment. I made a big chop, like completely chopped the top off it about 2 months ago, and it is starting to grow back. So maybe this is the start of it doing better things for me. But yeah, as you can see, there's lots of browning on the leaves that it's got. There are not many. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle so far, and one that I should probably be paying more attention to. And then here I've got my Philodendron Brazil, and typically I'm not a massive fan of aurea variegation, of yellow variegation, but this one I feel like is the exception to that rule. I think it is just lovely. And again, this is a very hardy plant, one that I found really easy to grow. It's taken several batterings over the years. I lost a big section of it when I was first moving in here. It got trampled on in the move, and it's bounced back really nicely. It also propagates very well. Oh my God, I've taken so many cuttings of this plant over the years and stuck cuttings in water, stuck them in prop boxes, and it has, I don't think, ever really failed to root for me. So yeah, it's another one that I would say is great if you're a beginner or just kind of getting into houseplants or just wanting to add something really easy to your collection. And then this is the one that I was telling you about earlier that is not doing well. This is the mother plant of my Cebu Blue. And I say mother plant, I'm actually lying there. This is not the one that I got the cuttings from that I showed you. I got the cuttings from the plant swap. But yeah, this one is just looking very battered. It's got lots of yellowing leaves, it's got lots of browning, and it has just been a little bit neglected. And occasionally I must admit, I do neglect my hanging plants a little bit just because it's a bit more effort to actually get the steps out and get up to do stuff to them. And a lot of the plants I've got up here for this reason are very hardy plants. They're ones like Hoyas and stuff like that that are very drought tolerant. But this one, I mean, it can be quite drought tolerant, but I think also it's maybe not potted in the best soil mix. So I need to give this one a little bit of TLC to get it looking a little bit happier again. And another hardy Hoya that I've got up here that never gives me any grief at all is the Hoya gracilis. And I just think this is such a beautiful Hoya. I actually accidentally ordered 2 of these a couple of years ago. I can't remember where I got them from, but I accidentally ordered 2, and typically I'd find a new home for the second one, but I loved it so much I was like, I'm gonna keep both of them. So now I have 2 full plants. But yeah, it's growing in fairly low light conditions. It really doesn't give me any grief. It can go weeks without watering. It's just fantastic. Hoyas are also pet friendly as well, which is definitely worth bearing in mind if you've got pets, small children, anything like that. So yeah, it's just an all-round winner in my opinion. And the last one I've got on this little hanging rail here is my Maranta leucanura, and again I've got some drama going on. This one on the whole is growing really beautifully for me. It's giving me lots of lovely growth. I just love its leaves. I think they are stunning. I love the lovely kind of like iridescent backs it's got to the leaves as well. But the one thing that I have found with Marantas just as a genus, and I've said this before, is that they're like magnets for mealybugs. And typically when you hear mealybugs, you think Hoyas, cacti, you think very like robust plants. And this, again, this is in the Marantaceae family. It's very Calathea-esque, and you wouldn't necessarily think that mealybugs would be that bad with this plant, but alas they are. So yeah, although this one doesn't currently have mealybugs, it has had them several times in my time of owning it, so that's perhaps why it's not looking quite as lovely. There is just a little bit of fallout from pest related issues. But nevertheless, it's really beautiful. It seems very happy in the spot that I've got it in. It is a little bit higher maintenance than some of the other plants I've got up here. So I've got it in this hanger here so that I can like lift it on and off easier. It's not a macrame hanger. So I don't need to get my step ladder out in order to care for it, which definitely makes my life easier. And coming down to my cabinet, let's start at the bottom here. This one is a Monstera esqueleto, and it's looking a little bit raggedy at the moment. As you can see, it's definitely not looking its finest. This is a plant that I've kind of struggled with. I've tried a few times with this plant, and I've had issues pretty much every single time for different reasons. And I did actually chop it a couple of months ago, and so I've got another little section of it propagating on this side of my cabinet, and that seems to be doing better. So I think I'm probably going to pot both sections up together and try and start again with this plant. Just get it a little bit fuller that way. But I'm not entirely sure why I struggle so much with this plant, to be honest. As I say, I find the Monstera adansonii fairly easy to grow. I haven't had much grief there. I just haven't struck the right balance with this plant yet, and I think a lot of the time when it hasn't gone my way fairly quickly, I have just given up. So I'm sticking with this one. I'm gonna give it one final bash this year, and if it doesn't love me, then maybe I won't grow it again. And at the back here, I've just got a little Dromiopsis maculata. This is a plant that I got in the goodie bag from another plant swap last year. And to be honest, it's not one that I'm loving. I know I'm starting off in my cabinet being a little bit negative, but it's just not one that's making me that happy. I currently have got it in sphagnum moss. I can see it's rooted amazingly at the bottom there, but it's bone dry at the moment just because I have not been very good at caring for it. So yeah, it might be another one that goes back to the plant swap to find a new home this year, because I'm sure it would make someone happy, but I just don't think, currently I don't think it's the plant for me. And then I've just got these 2 little Hoyas here clipped onto the backboard of my cabinet. This one on the left here is a Hoya David Cummingi. I never know if it's Cummingi or Cummingii, but yes, that's what it is. It's growing pretty well for me. It looks very lovely. And then next to it on the right is a Hoya Crassiopetalata Splash, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited about this one. I haven't had it for that long, but it's a Hoya that I've wanted for a really long time, and I just think it's gorgeous. And again, it's very different to anything else I've currently got in my collection. So although it hasn't given me any new growth in my care yet, I think it is quite slow to grow. I'm really hoping that it starts doing wonderful things for me this year. And then moving down here, I've got my Begonia albopicta, and this one's doing okay. It's doing okay. It was doing much better back when I lived in my old place. It was huge at one point, and it really started going downhill when I moved in here. And I think the first issue that I stumbled across with this plant was just environmental change, and I don't think I was particularly good at acclimating the plant. And it is giving me new growth, as you can see, but its growth isn't that big, and the rate at which it's growing is much, much slower than it was before. So I think it's a beautiful begonia. I think its leaves are really gorgeous. But I actually don't have many begonia in my collection at all nowadays, and if it doesn't work out with this one, I'm in no rush to go out and buy others. I just don't think it's a plant that's particularly suited to me. And I know some people, when I say that, I go, oh my god, no, try this begonia, try that begonia. And I think it's fine to have plants that you get on with better than others. I think it's fine to have plants that you like more than others. It's completely subjective, isn't it? And for me, on the whole, begonias are just not it. I do know there's some beautiful varieties about, but currently this is what this one's looking like. Pray for it, hope it does well, but I won't be rushing out to buy more if it doesn't. Oh dear, and this one's looking a little bit sad as well. My cabinet has just got so hot over the last few days. But this is the Alocasia Purple Sword, and this is another one that I haven't quite been able to make up my mind about. I know I've mentioned this in videos before, but I really like it, but I'm just not quite sure how much I love it. And as you can see, it's got a couple of leaves here that have died off. Its reservoir is quite dry at the moment because it is one I'm growing in semi-hydro. And often when I notice myself not caring for a plant that much, that's when I know it's time to, again, probably find it a new home. And I don't think I'm quite ready to part with this plant just yet. I do think it could be one that kind of grows on me, pardon the pun. But yeah, I think if I'm not in love with it by the end of the year, let's say, I will probably be finding it a new home. There's lots to love with this one, but it's just not, I don't know, it's not exciting me that much. And then this is one that I'm quite excited about. This is my variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. And a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me about this plant, I would have gone, no, I'm not fussed at all. And I do think the price on them was ridiculous when we first started seeing them. But this is actually some cuttings from my friend's plant. And now that it's started to give me some new growth, and the growth is actually starting to split, I'm really happy with how it's doing. I did worry at one stage that it had completely reverted, so what I did is I made some chops in the main stem, and it's rooted really well since then. And by doing that, I think I have just managed to preserve the variegation, because as I say, it's not highly variegated, but there is, in my opinion, there's a nice little balance. So I'm hoping that when I get some more growth and it sizes up a little bit, it should look gorgeous. The only thing with this one is that it is ridiculously slow to grow compared to the non-variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. It is like, it's going at snail's pace. It's ridiculous. I think it's given me 3 leaves in about 6 months, which is very, very slow indeed. But it's worth it. I'm enjoying watching it grow, and I'm enjoying everything it's doing for me. So hopefully, once it gets going, it will be a little bit quicker. Let's hope. And then this one's a little variegated Philodendron domesticum, and this was another hand-me-down plant from my friend Emma's collection. And again, she's quite similar to me in the sense that she's not usually a fan of the yellow aurea variegation, but as it hardens off, it kind of becomes a little bit creamier, like as it matures. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like bright yellow. And I, again, chopped this one to conserve the variegation. Again, you can see where I chopped it just there, and this is a new growth point. And although it's not highly variegated, some of the growth it's giving me is really quite nice. So I'm excited to see what it does. I don't feel a massive attachment to this plant yet, but it is one that's really exciting me. Like, I don't know, I feel like because it's very slow growing, and because I haven't had it that long, I've had it less than a year, I'm not as bonded with this one as some of my other plants, but nonetheless, as I say, I am really excited about it. So hopefully it will start doing some lovely things for me soon. And this is one that I need to do some reevaluation, let's say, with. It is a Philodendron martianum. And when I first got this plant, it was growing really well for me. It was growing very quickly. And since I've transferred it to semi-hydro, it has slowed right down. And a lot of the growth it's given me has been quite small and quite warped. And so I've been saying it, in fact, for months and months and months. It's been something on my to-do list. I need to get it out of its substrate. I need to take a look at the roots, and I need to, I don't know, just rejig things, because I think this plant has incredible potential, but right now I feel like the way I'm growing it is really limiting that. So yeah, as I say, on my to-do list, and one that I'm excited about, but currently just feel like I'm letting down a little bit. And this one's my Philodendron Painted Lady, which again, I've done the chop up and reset so many times with. And it's another one that I know should probably be on a moss pole, but although its growth isn't huge, I kind of like how it's growing at the moment. It's one that I feel like I've kind of had a bit of an on-off relationship with. I don't feel like I've ever loved this plant. I've gone through phases of really liking it, but it hasn't, I don't know, it hasn't excited me in the same way as some of my other ones have. So again, that was part of my reason for chopping it up. You can actually see at the bottom here where I made the chop, and then this section is all new growth. And I love how pinky its stems are, and I love that the kind of, I guess you would call it variegation on the leaves is just kind of, I mean, it's in the name again, painted, like it's very splashy and lovely. But yeah, at the moment it's currently just living very happily in my cabinet. I'm not doing a huge amount to it. It's getting ready to give me a new leaf there as well. So yeah, giving me lots of growth, seems pretty happy, and I will make some more decisions with it at some point. And then just next to it here, I've just got a little Anthurium clarinervium seedling. Again, another one of those. And then just in front of it is an Epiphyllum ackermanii, and this one is growing really weirdly right now. I absolutely love Epiphyllum, and I know there are some amazing types, and I'm really trying to like build my collection of Epiphyllum. And I really like that this one is just going a little bit rogue. I'm growing it in a very unconventional way. I'm growing it in soil, and I am growing it in a cup. And typically a lot of people wouldn't cabinet this plant. It is a jungle cactus, so it can absolutely thrive in a cabinet environment. But a lot of the time people would choose to grow this in just normal room conditions because it's very adaptable. But yeah, it seems pretty happy in there, and I'm just letting it do its thing. And at some point maybe I'll move it out of the cabinet, but right now it seems pretty happy. And then I've got another Anthurium clarinervium seedling. This is actually a really lovely little one. And then more of them next to it. And as you can see, I'm growing these ones in semi-hydro. They seem pretty happy like that. And then next to them, I've got my Hoya calistophylla, and I absolutely love this Hoya. I think its leaves are so pretty. The veination is so dramatic, and it's a Hoya that I wanted for a really long time before I actually got, and I feel really lucky to own it now. I absolutely love the collection of Hoyas that I've built over these last few years, because I've said it before, I think I probably got my first Hoya around about 6 years ago, and although I liked it, I didn't really kind of like get the buzz. And when I started getting like a few cuttings here or there, it was like a switch just flipped in my head. I was like, oh my god, I've got to have all the Hoyas. And now I've got, I think about, I want to say 30 or 40 different species in my collection, different species of Hoya. But yeah, the calistophylla is just a beautiful one. I love it so much. And up here I've got my Hoya Wilburgraves, and I love the Wilburgraves. I spoke earlier about how much I love splashy Hoyas, and oh my goodness, the balance of splashy silverness on this Hoya is just amazing. And this is a Hoya that absolutely loves cabinet life. I did grow it outside of a cabinet previously, and it didn't do that much for me. And honestly, as soon as I got it into the cabinet and it started getting more hours of light, it really started to grow like crazy. I know I do need to get it onto a trellis, but for the time being, I'm happy with how it's growing. And then a little Epipremnum Enjoy. I love the variegation on this one, and it's currently just growing in a little shot glass. I should really pot this up. I've been saying that for ages and I haven't got around to doing it. And then this one here is a Hoya pubera, and I just love this one's delicate little leaves. I think they are so gorgeous. But this one, in my opinion, is more similar. Like, if you feel it, it doesn't feel as much like a Hoya and more like a Dischidia. Like, I don't know, there's just something about it that feels like almost if you were to squeeze the leaves too hard, they pop. And obviously I'm not going to do that, but yeah, it just isn't quite as succulent and robust as some of my other Hoyas, but I do think it's lovely. Again, it's just propagating in sphagnum moss at the moment and has been for a very long time, so I should really, really pot this one up. And then next to it is one of my weirdest and coolest Hoyas. This is a Hoya globulosa Welsh mountain zoo. And again, this is one that is growing very, very wild. It's got leaves facing all different directions. And I'm not sure how well you'll be able to tell on camera, but its leaves are so furry. They are like velvety soft, particularly the undersides of the leaf. But I just think it's so cool. It's got everything that I love about the Calistophylla. It's got those beautiful dark veins. It's almost like luminous green. And yeah, as I say, it just feels gorgeous as well. It's one that I just want to like, it sounds weird, but like rub on my face because it just feels so lovely and soft. And it hasn't done anything for me in actually quite a long time. It hasn't given me any new growth, but literally in the last week, it's just started putting out some new leaves. Like this little one here is a brand new leaf. And you can see it's a little bit like shinier and waxier. They do come in a little bit more waxy and they get more and more hairs on them as they mature. And I think it is just lovely. And I should probably get it onto a trellis at some point because I feel like the weird way it's growing would benefit from a little bit more support. But for the time being, it seems very happy in my cabinet. So I'm just leaving it be. And moving over to this one is a Lepismium cruciform, and to be honest, this one is a bit dehydrated at the moment. I'm not showing you it on the best day. It's usually a little bit fuller and less, I want to say like spider-like. It looks a little bit crazy at the moment, but it's such a gorgeous Lepismium. I really love Lepismium as a genus. As I said, I'm a huge fan of jungle cacti. And if you look down here at its new growth, just look at all of those area roots coming out. It's absolutely crazy. And one of the reasons that it's doing this is just because I am growing it in such high humidity. And this plant really likes that. Despite what you might think just looking at it, it really likes it. So yeah, seems very happy in there for the time being. I might transition it out of the cabinet at some point, but right now it's staying where it is. And then the last one on the lower level is one that I've spoken about quite a lot before because I just adore it. It's a Peperomia incarna, and again, not sure how well you'll be able to tell, but this one is so incredibly soft. And I just love the way it's growing for me. It's obviously growing on a little bit of a curve because I have got it right up by the grow light and it's very much chasing the light. But it seems super happy in there. To be honest, I don't think it's one that needs to be in a cabinet, but I think primarily it's benefiting from high levels of heat and high levels of light as opposed to humidity. And for that reason, it is just giving me so much growth. You can see it's got some new growth coming there at the top. And I just love the structure of this Peperomia. It's very kind of tree-like and it branches in a way that a lot of others don't. So yeah, it's just one that I'm really enjoying growing. Also, again, I know I often get questions about the grow lights that I use. These are just mother grow lights and they're just the shorter bar version than the one I showed you over there. But again, I will link them down in the description box below. And then moving up to the top level here, this little one is a Hoya Hoischkaliana variegata. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. As you can see, I have written a little lolly stick with its name on there. And often I do this if I am just trying to learn the names of plants so that every time I look at them, I will see the name as well, and it makes it easier to stay in my brain. I know you don't have to learn all the names of your plants, but I don't know why I just get like a weird satisfaction out of knowing their Latin names. I'm really sad, I know I am. But this is another one that is relatively new to my collection and I think it is just adorable. I did actually get 2 sections of it. I had 2 strands and the other one very sadly rotted. Again, I think it was probably partly down to cold damage. But this one does seem to have taken, like if I give it a very gentle pull, there is resistance. So I'm guessing it is rooting into the soil. So hopefully it starts to give me some lovely growth. And then another one that, unless you're over on my Patreon, you will not have seen before. This is, in fact, I don't have a completely accurate idea on this one, but I know it's an Anthurium papillilaminum hybrid of some sort. And if you have any theories, I would be so interested to know. Please do comment them down below. But yeah, as I say, it's definitely a pappy hybrid of some sort. And this was its oldest leaf that it came with. And you can see it's got that little red sinus just there. But apart from that, it's very kind of vibrant and green. And its new growth is much darker and more dramatic. And it's loving life in my cabinet, actually. I spoke recently about the fact that some of my velvet leaf anthuriums haven't liked cabinet life very much. But it gave me this leaf. And then literally, this one hasn't even finished hardening off yet. And it's already starting to give me this little one here as well, which is just about to unfurl, which is so exciting. So I'm really excited about the potential of this plant. I'm hoping to do some Anthurium hybridization myself this year. I've done kind of basic pollination within one species, but I haven't attempted any cross-pollination in different species yet. So that's something I'm really hoping to do, potentially with this plant, depending on how we get on. But yeah, papillilaminum something. Let me know if you have any theories. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And I can't stop looking at it. And then another amazing Hoya that I absolutely adore is this one, the Hoya Kalimantan. And this one I've just got growing again in semi-hydro. It's in Lechuza Pond and it's just in a little vial. And I think it looks so pretty like that. And as you can see, it has rooted amazingly in there as well. And I'm a little bit gutted because this one last week started to give me some new growth and it started to give me this little leaf and I managed to knock this over and it fell out of my cabinet. And although it didn't break the leaf, since that's happened, unless it's just a massive coincidence, since that's happened, I can tell the new section of growth here has started to turn quite pink, which sometimes means it's getting ready to die back. And this leaf is looking a little bit sunsetty. And although I know some of you have said that could just be sun stress, I have a feeling that leaf might be on its way out. And if that is down to stress from me knocking the plant and dropping it, I feel really bad and I'm really sad. But yeah, it's a beautiful Hoya. I'm really excited to watch it grow. Hopefully I haven't damaged its growth too much and this will be the start of it doing something very exciting. But yeah, I'll let you know when I know more. And then behind it here, I've just got another section of my Hoya macrophylla, similar to the one that I showed you over on my shelves earlier. Apart from this one is growing again, purely in semi-hydro. It's got some really good roots in there. It's also giving me new growth. And I think I probably will be potting them all up together at some point. But for the time being, it's really happy in my cabinet. And then here I've got my Monstera standardliana, which is commonly known as the Philodendron cobra, I believe. And this one has just very recently started finally rooting into its moss pole, which I'm really happy about because this one took a while to get going. These ones, honestly, are one of the slowest plants to root and propagate I have ever known. I got these as cuttings at a plant swap about a year and a half ago, and no word of a lie, it took me about 9 months to get the cuttings to root. But now that they have rooted and they've started to grow, the plant is growing very quickly for me. The section that is highly variegated, the white is suffering and I have got quite a few bits with brown on them. So I think again, I might potentially need to do a little chop just to try and get a better balance of variegation because again, as you can see, just coming in there is a completely ghost leaf, which won't last very long at all. And then this one is a Syngonium chiapense frosted heart. And again, it's just propagating at the moment. I chopped it up. I decided to reroot it in sphagnum moss. And I will get it onto a moss pole at some point because I know this one is very different to what you might think of when you hear Syngonium. And it does have the potential to grow to be huge. And it's almost, I think, kind of similar between an Anthurium and a Philodendron when it's big. I'll put a picture on the screen there if I can find it so that you can see what the chiapense looks like when it is large. But yeah, it's one I'm really looking forward to growing and I hope I can bring out the best potential in. Oh, and I'm not sure what that is in very green water at the back. I think that's probably a Hoya cutting. I'm not sure. I'm not going to show you that. And I've got another Paraiso Verde here. This one is doing pretty well, but as you can see, it's not on a moss pole, and I know it should be. It's just growing a little bit bush-like, and I don't mind it like this, but I do think this is probably a plant that would make somebody else happier, so it's probably going to be one I chop up and take to the plant swap. But nonetheless, look at those aerial roots. They're really insane. I feel like it would propagate very easily because of that. So yeah, that is the plan with that one. And another fairly new one that I have not shown you yet is this beautiful Schismatoglottis SP Silver Borneo. And just look at the colour of those leaves. Isn't that just beautiful? I love Schismatoglottis as a genus, and I've had a Wallichii before, and that's actually back on my wish list at the moment. And they're quite similar in a lot of ways, in my experience, to Calathea to grow. There are a lot of similarities between them, but they do typically enjoy slightly higher levels of light. So yeah, I thought cabinet life would suit this one very well, and so far it seems very, very happy. It's got some new growth coming up here. And again, this is another one that I got in my Grow Tropicals order, and oh my goodness, I got some amazing things from Grow Tropicals. As I say, I do have a discount code for them, so I'll link it down below. But I got a couple of other bits as well that we will come to in a minute. But this one is just making me so happy right now. This was one of Ross's ones that I forgot I said that I would look after, and I didn't. So yeah, who knows, maybe it'll grow back. I'm personally not a massive fan of crotons, but we will try and get it back for his sake. And then this one, so firstly, this one, I think it's probably because it's very hot, but it is very floppy today, more so than I've ever known it to be. But this is a Drymonia chiribagana, and oh my goodness, this is like very quickly, I think, becoming my favourite plant. I got it at the beginning of this year. Again, it was sent to me by one of you guys, and I had never heard of it before. I'd never seen it before, and to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, it's lovely, but I'm not sure it's my kind of plant. I don't know why I thought that, but I didn't immediately go, oh wow. But since it started growing for me, I have just fallen in love. And if you watch my other videos, you'll know that I cannot stop raving about this plant. It's got such beautiful, dramatic, velvety leaves. It grows so quickly. Like, all of the growth that you can see here is in the last 2 months, which is insane. And it's got new growth coming at the top there as well. And I just think it's beautiful. But yeah, as I say, it's very floppy right now, and I can only assume that it is just because it is so warm today. So yeah. But then clipped onto the little backboard here is one of my Anthurium Doriaki Silver Blush hybrids, and I just think this little one is so adorable, and it has got a new little leaf that's just started unfurling as well. I didn't know if it was going to be unfurled in time to show you in this video, and I'm really glad it is. And also, I was going to say as well, these little clips I use on the backboard I find so useful. They're just like strong clothes pegs, I think. Again, I'll link them down below. But I just love them. I just find they really help to optimise space in my cabinet. So yeah, I can get more plants in. And then at the top here, I've got one that actually I don't think should be at the top here. This is my little Anthurium veitchii. And I'm showing you this little leaf here because its other 2 leaves look like they are on its way out. And I've had issues with the veitchii in the past, and this one is actually a very new addition to my collection. I only got it at the beginning of this year. And I am, as I say, very much still learning about Anthuriums, but this is one that I have found to be much thirstier than a lot of my others. It requires a lot more watering, and I think because of that, and because I've got it quite close to my grow light at the top of my cabinet that also gets very warm, these 2 leaves here have just gone, nope, no thank you, and they're on their way out. So yeah, I think I need to reconsider its position and just start being a little bit more attentive, because I adore this plant. I'm so excited to have been given a second chance to grow it again. And I just need to make sure that I'm getting things right this time. So yeah, a little bit of TLC needed there. And then next to it, I've got a little Philodendron Yopii, not a lot going on there. Again, I've chopped it back, I'm starting again. And then next to it, I've got the healthy section of my Hoya caudata sumatra, which is the one that was also outside my cabinet, looking like it was pretty much dead. But if you look at this one's leaves, they are so much more like waxy and robust. And again, very prehistoric. And that's something that I just think is really cool about this Hoya. I just think it's such an awesome one. So yeah, currently just growing it in sphagnum moss, but I'd say probably will transfer this one into semi-hydro at some point. I'm really enjoying growing Hoyas in semi-hydro right now, and they seem really happy with it. So I think that's probably my plan there. And then I've just got a little Alocasia portadora. Again, this is a baby that I got off my mother plant, capable of growing very big, and therefore one that I will definitely be passing along soon. And this weird looking thing next to it. So this is actually the top cut of my Philodendron fuzzy petiole. And I just wasn't getting on, in fact, I was getting on well with the fuzzy petiole, but then it got spider mites very badly. And I just again thought, let's start again. Let's not deal with this, let's just start again. And so I've got various sections in my prop box, and this bit here is in theory getting ready to give me a new leaf. Whether or not it actually will, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it has rooted in here. Like if I try and give it a pull, it's very secure. So I'll wait and see. It's in the best possible environment, and hopefully it will start giving me some growth soon. And then next to it, one of my favourite alocasias. This is my Alocasia sinuata, and I just think the leaves on this one are beyond beautiful. And I've said it before, but the Alocasia sinuata is actually critically endangered in its natural habitat. So more and more nowadays, it is being cultivated in a home environment. So it is just one that, I don't know, I feel so lucky to have, and I feel so lucky to be able to grow. So I also just kind of feel like it is my duty to try and spread the love a little bit with this plant. Like whenever this one gives me corms, I always try and make sure they're going to go to really good homes, as well as people that just really want them. But yeah, I just think it's gorgeous. It's so weird and alien-y, but it's just so cool. I really do love it. And then next to it, I've got one of my big Anthurium clarinerviums, and I love an Anthurium clarinervium. And to be honest, this one doesn't really need to be grown in a cabinet. I think I just put it in there when I was looking for something a little bit taller to fill the space a bit, and I've just left it in there, and I'm not quite sure why. But it is giving me a ridiculous amount of inflorescences at the moment. This one here I just left on for the purpose of showing you in this video, but it has died off. I did collect pollen from this, so I'm hoping to either pollinate this plant or potentially hybridize another one of my Anthuriums with it. And then this inflorescence here actually grew up so tall and got stuck behind my grow light, so I need to chop both of them off, but as I say, I thought I'd just leave them on to show you. And then coming out of the cabinet and down here is one that I get a lot of questions about, and I feel like I just don't talk about enough on my channel. It is a Ficus alii, and I find this, I mean, bearing in mind, I haven't always found Ficus as a genus that easy. Like there are some that I've really struggled with in the past. I have just found this to be so ridiculously hardy and so easy to grow. And I love the long length of its leaves. Again, I spoke earlier about the fact that I love texture in plants, and this one 100% ticks that box. And although it's living down here in a relatively low light spot, it's also right by the door, so it gets a bit of a draft. It's also in the place where Yoli's tail probably hits it the most. Despite all of those things, it is constantly giving me lots of new growth, and it does just seem really happy. So yeah, if you're also struggling to get your head around Ficus, this 100%, in my opinion, is a good one to start with. And then I've got 3 more Sansevieria over here, and this one actually isn't doing amazingly, as you can see. It is a Sansevieria laurentii, and have a look at this. That is not good. That needs to be chopped and propagated. Because this one actually was living up on the mezzanine floor in the bedroom for a while, which doesn't get any natural light at all. I think we just put it up there for like safekeeping as we were moving stuff, and it just ended up staying there. And because it didn't have any light at all, and to be honest, I don't think even got watered for at least a few months, it's looking a little bit worse for wear. So yeah, I do need to give this plant some TLC and try and get it back to health. But then the one above it, this one is a Sansevieria Moonshine, and I just think the colour of this plant is amazing. It's so, so beautiful. Similar to the Sansevieria Metallica, it's almost got like a silvery undertone to it, and I think it's just lovely. Again, it's a very hardy one, very resilient, very easy to grow. I do pretty much nothing to it. I'll occasionally throw some water on it, but apart from that, I really don't do anything. So with Sansevieria as a whole, if you are just looking for something very low maintenance and very adaptable, it is the best way to go in my opinion. And then up at the top here, I've got my beast, my big one, my Sansevieria Black Coral. And again, very similar to the other two, very similar care requirements. I just think it's lovely. I love the kind of sage green with dark green. I think it's very dramatic. I think it's very cool. It's just a plant that I think is awesome. And I completely forgot to show you as well, but I've got 3 little propagations up here. This one on the right is Skindapsus argyraeus, and as you can see, it's rooting really well. Definitely ready to be potted up. I've just kind of forgotten about it, and it seems pretty happy there, so for the time being, I'm just leaving it be. And then in the middle here, I've got some Hoya gracilis cuttings, and again, as you can see, really well rooted. I can actually see some little leaves forming under the water here. Again, to be honest, I probably could just carry on growing it hydroponically because it does seem happy, so no rush there either. And then here, oh, in fact, what's going on here? It looks like there's no water in this one. So this is a Hoya pubicalyx Hawaiian cutting. And yeah, as you can see, this one leaf has completely died. The other one actually somehow looks pretty healthy. But yeah, there's no water in there whatsoever. And I filled that, I'm sure, the same time as I filled the others. So I'm just going to take that off the wall. This is how I hang them as well. I've just got this little loop of string that I made. But yeah, I'm going to go fill that up now. And then here, this is my shingling Monstera dubia, and this is how my big one that I showed you at the beginning of the tour, this is how this one got started. This is the mother plant, this is where it came from. And this is doing okay, but since I've chopped it, since I've started doing lots of chopping and extending of the top section to essentially conserve and promote the bigger growth in the plant, this bottom section has become a little bit neglected, but also, I don't know, it just isn't as happy as it was before. I've lost quite a lot of leaves, as you can see towards the bottom of the plant. And despite the fact that the plant is currently quite hydrated, it's just a little bit curlier and more brittle. I want to say more brittle than it was before. So yeah, again, I think it's probably one that I should get into and have a proper look at the roots and do a little bit of digging and see what's going on. It's not unhealthy and it is still giving me growth at the top, but perhaps because I keep chopping and propagating it, maybe I should give it a break. I don't know. I am chopping it a lot. And then this one here, this is my big variegated Monstera albo, and I say variegated, she's not highly variegated, and towards the top she has actually reverted, and to be completely honest, I'm not that fussed. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a variegated Monstera, but I'm not as obsessed with them as I know some people are. So for me, it's more the lovely Monstera form, the like fenestrated, gorgeous form that I love. So I just think she's a beautiful plant. She's one that I've had in my care now for, I think, about 4 or 5 years. I had her since she was about that big, and she has grown amazingly for me. I have chopped her back several times, in fact. My mum actually helped me chop her back at one point, and every single time I have, she has just grown back so quickly. So to be honest, it's probably about time I did another chop on her. I'd also just like to try and promote some more growth down the bottom here because she's a little bit leggy as it goes up. So yeah, I would say that's probably on the cards in the next week or two. And then up here, this is the Anthurium magnificum I mentioned earlier that is not doing particularly well. As you can see, it's got very crispy, crunchy edges. And although this leaf is huge, it's just not growing in the way I'd like it to be. And to be completely honest, I think one of the main factors as to why this is just because it's not getting the light that it needs. Especially, obviously, we have just come out of the winter months and we've been getting not just fewer hours of light, but less light intensity as well. And that is really what I've noticed this start to happen. And it is actually giving me a brand new leaf at the top there that you can see. So, I mean, it like all hope is not doomed. This is definitely a very hardy Anthurium, but I just don't think I am currently bringing out the best in this plant. So I think I either need to install some sort of grow light up there in order to keep the plant happy, or think about relocating this plant. I think the reason why I haven't put something like a Calathea up there is just because it is a spot that it's on top of the fridge, it gets very warm. Plants that live there do need to be fairly low maintenance. So in fact, maybe something like a snake plant up there would do a better job. Maybe I should do that. But yeah, that's what it's currently looking like. I am determined to get it back to health this year, but currently it's not looking great. And then just next to it, I've just got another, I think this is actually not a marble queen, but just an Epipremnum aureum, just propagating in water. It's been here for a really long time. It's definitely ready to be potted up. Oh my God, yeah, just look at those roots. And also look at the state of that murky water. That definitely needs changing. Definitely needs changing. And then over here is one of my most relaxed Hoyas. Honestly, this is a plant that I just pretty much forget about and it always stays looking lovely. This is my Hoya pubicalyx Hawaiian, and it's very similar in fact to the normal pubicalyx. The only thing that is different about it is that it's new growth, and in fact, it hasn't currently got any new growth that I can show you, but the new growth comes in a really deep kind of vibrant purpley colour, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then as the leaf matures and hardens off, it just fades to this lovely kind of waxy green. But yeah, it's such a gorgeous one. And then just on top of the cooker here, I've got, oh my God, this needs to go in the bin. I've got a Dracaena lemon lime, and this is the top that I chopped off, the one that I showed you hanging. And I thought that maybe I'd be able to propagate it. And as you can see, it's just done nothing at all. It's been in here for weeks now. And in fact, it looks like it might be going a little bit moldy. So yep, that is one that is going in the bin. And then just down here, I've got my big ZZ plant. And this one I would say is probably, in my experience, on par with snake plants, just in terms of how easy it is to look after. It's also another one that is ridiculously adaptable. Like, this area doesn't always get great natural light, and despite that, it is giving me lots of new growth. You can see there's lots of sections here unfurling, and it's also a really easy plant to propagate. So if you want something to just kind of get used to houseplant-wise and experiment with and not worry that you're going to get too much wrong, then I think this is one. This is one to go for, in my opinion. You can get some beautiful varieties of ZZ as well. You can get the ZZ Raven, which is almost jet black. There's some gorgeous ones. But yeah, I just really like having this one here. It just adds a little bit of greenery to this area. And then coming into the kitchen, I've got a couple of very sad looking propagations, which I must confess, I'm pretty sure were propagating in my houseplant tour last year. This is a very sad looking Tradescantia Ivory Hill. I think it was fuller last year. I don't actually have the mother plant anymore. I don't know, I've kind of become a little bit fed up of Tradescantia. Not all Tradescantia, but a lot of Tradescantia. And this one just it was never truly looking healthy for me, and I didn't have the motivation to really get it back to health. So I passed the main section along to someone else. I thought I'd keep some cuttings back for myself if I wanted to pot them up and start a brand new plant again in the future. And to be honest, I don't. I'm just leaving these here, letting them live out their life, add a little bit of greenery to the kitchen, and then at some point that plant will no longer be in my collection. And then these Philodendron Brazil cuttings again. Oh, I've got a pothos cutting in there as well. But I'm pretty sure I showed you these looking, I was going to say exactly the same, looking arguably better this time last year. They're just looking a bit malnourished, let's say. And you can absolutely grow both Epipremnum and Philodendron hydroponically. You can grow them in pure water, but because I haven't been adding any fertiliser in there, obviously they haven't had any nutrients for like a year. So I should either, in fact that little section there looks quite healthy. But I should either pot them back up with the mother plant or I should start fertilising. But yeah, currently it's just there on my kitchen side, a little neglected. Oh, and I forgot to show you this one as well. This is just a little Sansevieria Victoria. And again, it's one that I really do need to pot size up. It's also a little bit dehydrated. You can see it's very curly. But I got this one, honestly, I got this one like, I want to say 2 years ago. And I feel like because, as I say, because Sansevieria is a plant that can survive in very low light conditions, I have just kind of put it in spaces in wherever I've lived over the years to try and make it a little bit more green. And in fact, if I had been growing this in higher light, I feel like the plant would be doing much better because you can see it has got some new growth coming just there. It's trying, but I'm not being the best plant parent to that plant right now. And I've just got some more little propagations here, but I just want to take a moment to show you this pot because this is another one that Ross made and I just think it's so cool. He made it out of clay and painted it. And I know I'm not usually the best with having lots of different colours in my house, but I've had to kind of get a little bit better at that since living with Ross, so I've actually grown to really love it. And in there, oh my God, these roots are crazy. I've got some Scindapsus Silver Hero cuttings, and you'll see my Scindapsus Silver Hero mother plant in a moment when we get to it, but it's basically just growing like a weed. And although it's giving me lots and lots of very fast growth, it's not as full as I'd like it. So I'm propagating loads of sections of it in the hope I can pot them all back up with the mother plant at some point and get a lovely full plant going. But as you can see, this one has got a fantastic root system and I think it would definitely be ready to be potted up. So another thing on the to-do list. My God, this never-ending houseplant to-do list. Does anyone else have this? It just never stops. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it never stops. And then I've got some more things just propagating here in what I think was maybe an old gin bottle or something like that. I just really liked the bottle and so I hung on to it. I do that all the time. I've got so many bottles and jars and all sorts. But I've got some Scindapsus argyraeus cuttings just here. And then this is a slightly dusty Monstera Peru cutting. I actually don't have the mother plant of the Monstera Peru anymore, very sadly. I did lose that plant. I can't remember exactly what happened to it, but I know the plant died, and as it was dying I decided to take some cuttings so that I could save it, and these are some of the cuttings. And that is a Philodendron hederaceum cutting in there. I've got the mother plant through in the bedroom. The mother plant is ginormous now. And also very sadly, the toasty maker caught this leaf the other day, and in fact that leaf probably needs to come off the plant. But yeah, these are just growing hydroponically, seeming very happy. Again, I should probably add in some fertiliser, but they're just bringing a little bit of greenery to that area and seem happy. And then this is one of my favourite Aglaonema. This is my Aglaonema cutlass, and just look at those leaves. Aren't they stunning? I feel like with this one, it's almost like they've just been painted. Like they are so, so perfect. And I love the pop of, I was gonna say colour, the pop of vibrant greenery this adds to the kitchen. As I've already said, Aglaonema are just such a fantastic genus of plant. They're so hardy, they're so adaptable. You'll see a lot more in a minute because I've got quite a few of my other Aglaonema in this room as well, on this side of the room. This side of the room that I'm showing you now tends to be lower light than the side that we started with, so a lot of these plants are a little bit more adaptable when it comes to lower lighting conditions. And yeah, as I say, this one has lived very, very happily in this spot for well over a year now and given me no grief at all. The only thing is I don't turn this plant at all. I literally just leave it as is, so obviously all of its growth is very much just facing one way, but that's how I plan on growing the plants kind of indefinitely, so it doesn't bother me too much. And then I've just got a little Sansevieria laurentii cutting here. This is one that came off the unwell plant, and I do plan on propagating it. However, it has been here by the sink for about a month now, so I should probably chop it and let it callus, and then I can pot it up or pop it into some water. But it's still very robust and sturdy. I think it does definitely still stand a chance. And then here I've got a cutting of my Hoya parasitica black margin just propagating in water. And as you can see, it has got a fantastic root system. This would definitely be ready to be potted up. And again, similarly to what I just said about the Monstera Peru, very sadly, I have lost the mother plant of this one. It started going downhill, I think around about this time last year, and I never truly got to the bottom of what was going on with it, but I did take some cuttings and I tried propagating it to save it, and that is what you're looking at now. But yeah, the rest of the plant very sadly didn't make it. So I'm very happy that I have been able to conserve a little bit of this growth, because I think the Parasitica Black Margin is such a gorgeous one. And actually, funnily enough, since I've been growing it in this way, it has changed in appearance. Like, I feel like if you look at that leaf there, like look at that leaf there, and then you look at its new growth, it really looks quite different, and I'm not quite sure why. I'm guessing it's probably just an environmental change, but yeah, it's a plant I really love. And next to it, I've got my Philodendron Tortum, which as you can see is doing really, really well. I'm so happy with how this plant's growing. However, I feel like over the winter months, this plant has not been getting as much light as it needs. And for that reason, it sent out this big long runner, which as you can see, has got little tortum leaves coming off it, but it's not as self-heading as the plant typically is. The only good thing with this is it does mean that I'll be able to easily take cuttings and propagate this plant, because this one can be a little bit of a tricky one to propagate sometimes, just because if you look at the back of it, you see how condensed the internodal spacing is. It can just mean that actually taking cuttings is a little bit tricky. So yeah, I think I'm going to chop that big bit there off, and I'm going to try and get some little babies going. But yeah, I love the Tortum. I know some people really don't like it. I think it's very much a Marmite plant. I think you either love it or hate it, but I'm definitely on the love side with it. And some more little cuttings just here. What have I got? I've got some Hoya gracilis, I think. And oh dear, a very leggy and not very happy bit of Hoya Bella. And in fact, you will not be seeing the Hoya Bella mother plant today, because it's currently through in the bathroom and I'm treating it for mealybugs. I've got a few that are currently through in the bathroom, in fact, but yeah, that's all I've got there. I've just got some Hoya gracilis and some Hoya Bella that's not looking very well. And here I've got some Sansevieria laurentii. Oh my goodness, I haven't looked at this in a very long time, and I can see it is desperately in need of potting up. Look at those roots. See if I can take them out and show you. Whoa, yeah, in fact, they're starting to turn a little bit. But yeah, Sansevieria laurentii, which is very well rooted, and I think has been propagating for, I want to say maybe like 2 years now. It's been propagating for a very long time. So that's ready to be potted up. And then I've got another little ZZ plant here, which again, I don't do a huge amount to. It's just there to add a little bit of greenery in a spot that I know it will be happy and it will give me growth. And in fact, I can actually see it's got a little bit of new growth coming up there. And I can also see it's got quite a lot of webbing on it. And don't worry, this is not spider mite related. It is just house spider related. We get little spiders from time to time. And so long as they're not the horrible false widow ones, I tend to just let them stay in the house. I know that might be weird, but I think they act as natural predators, and so therefore they can stay if they're happy. So yeah, that's that one. And just here I've got a Pilea peperomioides, and I'm pretty sure when you saw this plant in my houseplant tour last year, it would have been about the same size as the little pups that you can see in there now. It has sized up so much in the last year. And yeah, as I say, it's obviously giving me lots and lots of little babies, so I will probably propagate them and be left with lots more. Honestly, this plant just pops out children left, right and centre. But it's such a cheeky little plant. I absolutely love the Pilea peperomioides. I think, again, it's quite an underrated one. It's also very accessible nowadays in the UK. You can pick these up for not a lot of money at all, that almost every garden centre you seem to walk into. So yeah, it's one that lives very happily here in not a huge amount of light. It doesn't really get any other special care. And yeah, it just stays looking really lovely and happy and healthy. And down in my little cabinet here, firstly, I can see that the moss is very, very dry. It definitely needs hydrating. I've got a white princess philodendron here on the left, and then I've got a philodendron gloriosum, or in fact I've got two philodendron gloriosums in the middle. And then at the front here, I'm pretty sure, what is this? I'm pretty sure it's either a Philodendron plougmanii or a marme, but I don't actually know. To be honest, I just think of this little cabinet as a fancy propagation box. I very rarely open it. I very rarely do anything to the plants inside whatsoever. But I have noticed in the last couple of weeks a few thrips in here, and oh my goodness, that is something that when you get thrips in a cabinet space, it needs to be dealt with very quickly. So I've emptied a load of colony bags of predatory mites directly into there. So I'm hoping they're getting to work and kind of sorting things out and keeping things at bay. But yeah, I'm not taking anything in or out of that cabinet for the time being just because of that. And then this is another Aglaonema that I absolutely love. This is one of my Aglaonema Silver Queens. And I've got, as I say, I've got several of these. I've got another one in the bedroom, which is big and beautiful and gorgeous. And this is just a little section that I divided from that mother plant. And it's another one that I think just has such beautiful, striking foliage, but is able to survive in very low lighting conditions. Hence the fact it is doing so incredibly well here. It did actually live over on my desk for a while, and that got even lower light, and it was still giving me lots of lovely growth. So yeah, I just absolutely adore it. It's super easy, super adaptable, just all round a great plant. And as you can see just behind the plant here, I've just put some acetate sheeting going up the walls, and that's just because my radiator is directly behind this unit. And if I don't direct the heat away, it goes straight up the back and burns my plants. I learnt that the hard way. I did lose one of my Hoyas because it got absolutely scorched when it was there. And here on the end, I've got my Philodendron Golden Dragon, and this is another one that is just incredibly adaptable lighting-wise and is giving me beautiful, beautiful growth in the spot that I've got it in. I have got this one potted in semi-hydro, and again, as you can see, all of its growth is very much facing outwards. But I don't really mind that. I think so long as the plant's happy, so long as it's still growing for me, and so long as it still looks lovely and conditioned, I'm not going to worry. It's how I'm personally choosing to grow it. When I do eventually have a little bit more space, I'd love to get this plant onto a moss pole because I've seen the potential of this plant when it is able to climb. So that will be something to do at some point. But for the time being, it's happy here. And coming over to my desk, please excuse the mess. I know it's very cluttered and crammed at the moment, but I've got another Sansevieria Moonshine. And as you can see, this one is in a very, very low light spot, and it is still giving me lovely growth. I do very little to this plant, but I do just like having a little bit of greenery on my desk. So yeah, this plant's absolutely perfect for there. And then this one just here. So this is a rubber plant, a Ficus elastica, and this one has not been doing that well for a very long time. And although it doesn't look awful, as you can tell, it is just a little bit floppy. And I was given this plant as a gift by a neighbour when they moved out about 4 months ago, and it wasn't looking amazing at the time. I can never find it in myself to say no to a plant if I'm rescuing it or rehoming it. So I was like, you know what, I'll take it in, I'll try and bring the best out of it. And to be honest, I should probably get in there and like have a look at the roots and check to see there's no plug netting around the roots or anything like that, which I suspect there might be. But yeah, currently it's not looking great. Another thing on the to-do list. But then coming over to the plants I've got down here behind my sofa, this one here is a cast iron plant. And again, I know I've said it about snake plants, ZZ plants. This is another one that can survive amazingly in lots of different lighting conditions. It doesn't need ridiculously high levels of humidity. It's definitely not a fast grower. Like, I have found this one to be potentially one of the slowest in my collection. I got it for my, I was going to say 21st birthday. My God, that was 9 years ago. I got it for my birthday 3 years ago, I think, and it was about that big at the time, and it doesn't look that much different than it did then. I think it's given me maybe 2 or 3 new leaves in that time. And don't get me wrong, I think it's beautiful and luscious, and it definitely helps to add a lovely jungly vibe to this area. And it's also very easy to care for, but if you are looking for something that's going to size up quickly, this is probably one you want to buy big instead of trying to grow it big yourself at home. Unless you're very patient. If you're very patient, then absolutely go for it. And this one here is technically not mine anymore. I gave these as cuttings to, in fact, when I first moved into the building here about 1.5 years ago, I took some cuttings to my neighbours as a Christmas present to kind of say hello and introduce myself. And I gave these to one of my downstairs neighbours, who then moved out about 4 months later and asked if I could take these and look after them for him. And he's never come back for them, but he has texted me several times to acknowledge the fact that he will. So I'm just leaving them as he's growing them. I personally wouldn't choose to be growing them this way. They are in a container without any drainage. I've got a Hoya cutting just here, which is looking pretty healthy. And then I think a little bit of Syngonium albo. This is, I mean, it doesn't want to be watered at the same rate as these, so obviously potting them all together is a little bit risky, but it is giving me a new leaf. And then a section of Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, which is doing okay, but again, it's very leggy. And I would personally chop and propagate this, but again, I kind of don't want to touch it now that I've given it to him and he says that he'll come back for it. I'm kind of wanting to let him deal with it, but I'm not sure. I think maybe I should consult him on that, because I would be changing things up if that were my plant. But then another Aglaonema. I don't actually know the Latin name for this one, but I bought it from, I think from Grow Tropicals about 1 year ago, and this one was just labelled Aglaonema stripes. And again, I'm just in love with the foliage on this plant. I think it's so pretty. I just adore it. I love Aglaonema so much. I know I keep banging on about it, but I really, really do. It's so easy. I barely do anything to this plant. It's very sheltered and shaded in the area that it's in here, as you can see, so it doesn't get a lot of natural light, but it's giving me lots of growth, and you can see it's putting out a new leaf just there at the moment. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it's doing, and I think it's just gorgeous. And then, oh, here's one that's not doing very well. And I'm very aware of the fact that I'm kind of letting this plant die at the moment. Please don't judge me. This is a variegated Monstera albo, and it's been steadily on the decline for quite a long time now. As you can see, it's got lots of browning leaves. It's very curly. Its moss is bone dry. And I think what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to chop it up into wet sticks, and I'm going to start it again, probably again pass them on to other people. But this one has an amazing balance of variegation. But what was happening is it was starting to go completely white, and as I've already mentioned in this video, often when ghost growth starts to happen, because the plant doesn't contain any chlorophyll, it does just mean that that growth isn't serving the plant, and it's going to essentially just die back. So yeah, it's on my to-do list. I know it's looking very, very sad, but I am just gonna chop it up and get it going again from scratch. And this one is my favourite crawling plant of them all. This is the Philodendron Dean McDowell, which has got so big now that it's actually kind of hard to pick her up and show you. But I absolutely adore this plant. It's a hybrid philodendron. It's a cross between the Philodendron pastosanum and the Philodendron gloriosum. And as I said earlier, typically for me, crawling plants aren't ones that I necessarily go out and actively seek to have in my collection. Quite the opposite. I don't want to bring any more crawling plants into my collection, just because, as you can see, they are grown in these big trough planters that take up so much room. But this is one that I am absolutely willing to make the space for, because I just think its leaves are so beautiful and pillowy. And at some point soon, this plant is going to outgrow its trough planter, so I need to mentally prepare myself to probably make some cuts at some point. Again, I find it really difficult sometimes with my big, beautiful plants that I've grown to be so proud of, but I know I do need to do it. I do need to do it at some point soon. And then this one is my now absolutely ginormous bird of paradise. And oh my goodness, I am so in love with the bird of paradise. It's got to be one of my all-time favourite plants. It's so easy to grow so long as you've got decent lighting conditions. And it really requires very little care. And for me, the reward of growing it is just fantastic. It's sized up so much in the time that I've had it. I've had it now for, I think, about 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years. And I'll put a picture on the screen so that you can see how big it was when I bought it. And although it's not the fastest grower in the entire world, what I have found is that when it does give you new growth, because its leaves are so big, it dramatically changes the appearance of the plant so much that it almost makes it feel like a fast growing plant, if that makes sense. And as you can see, it is starting to give me 2 new leaves at the moment as well, which is very exciting. Very exciting. I love my bird of paradise. And then just next to it here, I've got my Philodendron Splendid, which is one of my favourite plants. I know I'm saying that about loads of them, but it genuinely is one of my favourite plants. I think it is so beautiful and dramatic. And again, it's another one that I have been so proud of how I've managed to get to size up over my time of owning it. It's given me so much new growth, and as you can see, it is getting ready to give me a new leaf just here as well. And despite the fact that it's doing pretty well for me, I have had some issues with it over the last few months. As you can see, I've got lots of yellowing on its leaves. It really needs a bit of a chop back, to be honest, in order to get it back to health. I had root-related issues and I also had pests. And although both of those issues are now rectified and the plant is healthy and pest-free, the fallout from those issues is very noticeable on the plant. And although that you might just think that the yellowing on the leaves, me chopping that back, would just be a superficial issue, also it's important to remember that yellow can attract pests. It can essentially be like the plant saying, hello, I am an unhealthy plant, come over here and eat me. Hence why yellow sticky traps are yellow, to attract things such as fungus gnats. So yeah, although I would not like to have to look at the yellowing on the leaves, I should also probably lop it off for the sake of the plant's health. And then before I take you through all the plants on this shelf here, which is actually the last bit of the tour in this room, I'm going to take you through the hanging plants on this rail here because there's quite a lot of them. And in fact, let's start at this end. Let's start at this end and work our way down. So this little one here is my Hoya SP Burtney Aff, and I showed you the variegated version of this plant over on my shelves at the beginning of the tour, and this is the one that kind of sparked my interest in this type of plant. I got this one as cuttings at the first ever plant swap I went to, actually, and it's one that, and I've said this before, but it's one I wasn't expecting to love so much. I just think it is such a gorgeous and underrated Hoya. I love the colour of its leaves. I love the like almost black edges to it. And I also love how fuzzy it is. I'm not quite sure if the camera is actually picking this up, but it's covered in like teeny tiny, really furry hairs. So it's really, really soft and it's just so gorgeous. It's just one that I really adore. And it's actually been fairly fast growing for me as well. I've grown it in all different lighting conditions. Where it is right now, it's in fairly low light and it is still putting out lots and lots and lots of growth. And yeah, the plant seems very happy here because it does grow so quickly as well. It's one that I've sent out lots of cuttings of, I've given lots away, I've taken lots to swaps. And yeah, it's just one that I really like sharing the love with. And then next to it, I've got another Hoya gracilis. I know I said when I was going through my hanging plants on the other side of the room that I accidentally ordered 2 at one point. This is the other one. I won't say too much about it because I know I have already spoken about this plant. But yeah, it's just another one that's growing really beautifully here and I just think is really gorgeous. Oh, and before I move on to the next one, I've also got 2 plants hanging in my Velux windows here. My very, very dirty Velux windows. My God, they are due for a clean. And the one on the left here is a red coral cactus. I know it's not looking good at the moment. It's in rehab, recovering from thrips. Currently, there's not a lot to say about it. It doesn't look amazing. But then the one on the right here, I absolutely love. This is my Hoya Waietier, and this has just been such an easy plant to grow. I've spoken a lot in this video already about low maintenance Hoyas that just make lovely hanging plants, and this is definitely one of them. I just love the length of this one's leaves, and as I say, it requires very little care indeed, and although it is quite slow to grow, it does give me beautiful growth. So yeah, it's very rewarding and just a really awesome plant. And then coming back over here again, this is my very big, very long now pothos. I think this is actually a combination of Epipremnum Marble Queen and Anthurium. Yeah, I can see sections of both in here, so I don't know how that happened. I think I must have just at some point accidentally potted 2 different types together. I know some people do choose to just do that as a choice and pot different types together, but to be honest, I don't know why, it just freaks me out a bit when people do that. I tend to pot them separately. But yeah, it has been chopped back many, many times. You can see down here, the most recent chop I made, that's where I chopped, and that's where new growth is coming out already. And I only did that chop a couple of months ago. It's such a fast growing plant. I think it's quite obvious how much I love pothos plants. They are definitely popular houseplants for a reason. And very sadly, there's not a huge amount to show you with this one because it is completely dead. This was my Hoya croniana and it started going downhill about 4 or 5 months ago. I took some cuttings and as you've already seen, there have been some successful propagations from those cuttings, but I did just decide to stick these much longer sections down directly into semi-hydro and hope that I might be able to propagate it that way, and it hasn't taken. It hasn't taken. They've just rotted at the top and they're obviously not going to bounce back. So this is another plant that is going to go by the bin. But then hanging next to it is a very healthy one, and this is a little neon pothos, and this is actually the first neon pothos I've ever owned, and I got these as cuttings last year. I know it's considered to be a very common house plant, and for a lot of people it's kind of like just a bog standard kind of starter plant, and I don't know why, I've just never owned one. So yeah, as I say, I saw some cuttings, I was like, you know what, instead of buying a plant, I'll get them, I'll propagate them myself, I'll pot them up, and I've only actually had these ones potted up for about 3 or 4 months, so it's a very new plant in this room, but I just think it's gorgeous. It's almost like, I mean, out of interest, what colour would you say that is? I would say like highlighter yellow, but I know some people might say neon green. But whatever it is, I just think it's lovely, and it just brings a lot of, I was going to say colour. This is about as colourful as I tend to get with houseplants, but it just brings a nice splash of brightness to this area because I have got some quite dark houseplants, and especially because this is quite a low light spot, it's quite nice to have something quite bright there. And here I've got the mother plants to all the cuttings you've seen so far of the Scindapsus Silver Hero, and I just think this is such a beautiful Scindapsus. It's got such beautiful kind of bluey silver leaves, and when they catch the light they almost shimmer. They're so gorgeous. And I'd say it's probably one of my favourite species of Scindapsus, if I had to say. But it is the one that, as I mentioned earlier, is a little bit sparse at the moment. As you can see, it's only got a few vines actually coming down at the bottom here. So I am constantly chopping and propagating this plant. And hopefully in the next few months, she will be looking much fuller and healthier because I am going to pot some of the babies back up with her. But yeah, she's grown in lots of different lighting conditions as well. This is one that was actually hanging in my Velux window for a while until she got too long for there. But again, seems very happy growing where she is and hasn't given me any grief at all. And sadly, another plant that was actually looking much fuller and bigger last time you saw it. This is my Aschananthus marmoratus. And I adore this plant. And to be honest, it's got to be one of my easiest hanging plants that isn't a Hoya to grow. I find it so low maintenance, so easy to care for. However, my big mother plant last year, again, I think it was it mealybugs? I think she got mealybugs, and she spent about 4 months outside on the balcony, and I eventually took some cuttings. I've got a few cuttings through in the bedroom as well, but these are the cuttings that I managed to save, now potted up. And although from the angle I'm showing you her here, she looks lovely and full, if you look at the side or at the back, she's really not. Her growth is just kind of positioned that way to give the illusion that she's fuller than she is. And I really hope that at some point I will be able to get her back to the beautiful level she was at before, because she was huge and she was growing so well for me. But I think because this one has got like such an intricate structure, but like, I know what I mean by that. Just like lots of crevices to hide in. So if mealybugs do get in, they are an absolute nightmare to treat. The amount of times I thought I'd got them all with this plant, and then a couple of months later I'd noticed they came back. So yeah, this is the healthiest she's looked in a little while, but she is, as I say, a lot smaller. But the one thing I do just love about this plant as well is the backs of the leaf. Just look how pretty they are. They're almost like leopard print. They're just gorgeous. And then this little one's a weird one, and just have a look at it and take a guess as to what you think it is. Comment it down below, comment what you think this plant is, because I personally don't think it looks like, what it is. And this is actually a Philodendron micans, and I just find that so bizarre because obviously its growth is so pale. And again, my micans at one point was really full, really long, and it was just one that fell under my radar at one point, and it became very neglected. And again, I decided to chop the whole thing up. I decided to start from scratch. And so all of these cuttings are little wet stick cuttings that I took, and I put them into a prop box. I waited, I think, about 3 or 4 months for them to completely sprout, and I potted them up about 4 months ago now, I think. But since the plant has started regrowing, it is just much paler than it was before. And this has been this way ever since the cuttings started sprouting. And bearing in mind, they sprouted in the exact same environment, like same lighting conditions and everything that the mother plant was in. Although it's in fairly low light now, the colour hasn't changed. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just because it's quite a juvenile plant currently. I'm wondering maybe if when it starts to size up a little bit, maybe it'll get darker. But yeah, it's not one that I would currently look at and think micans. I think it's lovely, and I'm really happy that I've been able to save the plant, but it just isn't what I would necessarily think of. Oh dear, and then I've got a very sad looking spider plant here. Look at this one. It's also in a pot that is way too big for it. But I've got lots of spider plants and lots of spider plant babies, and this one was living in the bedroom up until recently, and it just started going downhill. And I think I dealt with this in a repot and chat because I was like, do I throw it? I've got so many of them. Do I keep it? And I decided to save it, and you know what? It's not looking awful. It's not looking awful, but it's got lots of dead growth just here, and it's just not looking that happy and healthy. So maybe it's one that I should part ways with. I'm not sure. But also, typically, spider plants, when they start bouncing back and they start putting out new growth, they can be quite quick to revive themselves. So we will wait and see. We'll wait and see. But yeah, that is currently what it's looking like. And I'm having to hold down my bird of paradise leaf here so that I can actually show you this because it is massively in the way. But this is, again, a not very well looking aglaonema. And I actually don't have an ID on this aglaonema. I got it fairly recently on a rescue shelf at the garden centre, and I'm attempting to revive it at the moment, but I'll get it out of the pot so you can have a look. It's got very white stems, and its leaves are very long, very dark green, but the underside of them has this white veination. And I've had lots of theories from you guys. Some of you have said bamboo, and I've done a lot of Googling and I've done a lot of research, and so far I haven't been able to find an ID that I think is actually accurate for this one. So I know it's kind of hard to tell because it's not looking very happy at the moment. But if you do have any theories or you do know, please do let me know, because I would love to be able to put a name to a face. But yeah, currently it's looking a little bit sad. It does actually need a bit of a prune back. I'm just looking, it's got some dead growth in there. So yeah, again, on the to-do list, but I'm hoping I can bring it back to health. And here I've just got some Hoya linearis cuttings that I've potted in semi-hydro, and I'm sad to say that these ones are also looking a little bit unhappy. I must give this hanging rail a little bit of TLC because I feel very bad saying all of this out loud as I talk through them. I realise I've neglected these plants a little bit. But yeah, these are cuttings taken from the mother plant of mine, my big mother plant that you saw this time last year in my houseplant tour. And again, it was mealybugs, and mealybugs are a nightmare on any Hoya. But when they got onto the linearis, I think because it's got such like delicate little stems, it can be really, really hard to deal with. So yeah, these are some of the cuttings, and I have got some more cuttings through in the bedroom. But I do love the linearis. It's one of my favourite Hoyas that doesn't really feel like a Hoya. I think because it's so, as I've just said, so delicate and so soft and so fragile compared to what you think of a lot of the time when you hear Hoya. You think kind of robust and sturdy and waxy, and this is none of those things. But yeah, I think it's gorgeous, and I just hope that I can pot all the cuttings back up together at some point and get a lovely, lovely full plant going, because although I love this one like this, I'd ideally like it to be a little bit fuller. And then this one here hasn't done a lot for me in a while. It looks lovely when you look at it from above, but if you just look at it like that, it doesn't really look like much. And it's my Peperomia rotundifolia, and this started out as a teeny tiny little baby plant that I got as like a plug plant at a garden centre, and I loved it so much, but it wasn't growing as quickly as I'd have liked it to be, so I went back to the same garden centre within the space of a couple of months, and I bought about 4 more, and eventually as they started to grow I chopped, I propagated, and I have now got this, I say lovely full plant going. I'm kind of thinking if I was to pot size down, it would look lovely and fuller. But yeah, it seems pretty happy here. It's been in this spot for, I think, about 5 months now, and it hasn't given me any grief, but it has really slowed down. And I think that is probably just because, as I say, this spot doesn't get the best natural light, particularly in the winter months. It hasn't been getting that much light at all. And I think this one, because it's a semi-succulent, would really benefit if it was hanging in my window, for example. And for that reason, I might consider moving it through to the window in the bedroom, maybe. I always talk about surviving versus thriving and how the two are very different things. And I feel like at the moment, this is a very good example of a plant that is surviving and not presenting issues, but is not doing as well as it could be. So yeah, I don't think it's unhealthy as such. I think it looks lovely, but I definitely think I could be doing more to make it happier. And then the final hanging plant, this one on the end is another one that I can't easily lift off and show you, but it is my Scindapsus argyraeus, and I think it is such a beautiful, such an adorable little Scindapsus. And I treat this one pretty much in the exact same way as I do my Scindapsus exotica, which is actually opposite it on the other hanging rail. And I use the bowl to water so that, again, I don't have to take it off, so I don't have to disrupt all of its vines. It's got winding round here. And similarly to what I said about that one, this is one that I think once you've found a spot where it's happy, it's actually incredibly low maintenance. I don't water this one very often, every 2 to 3 weeks at the moment, and it seems very happy with that. It's very good at letting me know as well when it needs a drink, because in fact you can kind of see just here, its leaves will start to curl. And because this one's curling here, I'm guessing it's probably, yeah, if I feel its soil, I can feel it is quite dry. It's probably getting to about the time where I could do with giving it a drink. But yeah, it is just growing like crazy. I've chopped it back a few times as well, but right now I'm just letting it grow wild, and I think it looks so pretty like this. But yeah, those are all of the hanging plants. Oh, no, I lied. There is one more hanging plant, but that one's right in the middle of the window, and I think we're going to end with that one because it is another one of my favourite plants. But then coming over to this shelf, to the final plants, there's a lot here that, to be honest, I don't talk that much about very often. I've got some really exciting things happening. And one of the plants on the top shelf here, which is, oh my goodness, such a favourite in my collection right now, is my Anthurium pallidiflorum. And oh my God, I wanted this plant for such a long time before I got it. Like, this was a wish list plant for me for years and years and years. And if you're not new to my channel, then you'll probably know that I banged on about this plant pretty much constantly until I eventually bit the bullet and I found one for a price that I was happy with, and I did go ahead and get it for myself at the beginning of the year. And I have absolutely no regrets. Honestly, this is a plant that I look at multiple times a day. This is a new leaf here that it's had since it's been in my collection, and it's gorgeous, and it's getting really big already. Like, it's properly sizing up. And I can see at the top here as well, it is getting ready to give me another new leaf, which is beyond exciting for me. Honestly, I'm so excited. And this is another one that I've used a milkshake container lid at the top to just help keep the sphagnum moss hydrated. And the reason I've done this is just to try and activate some of the aerial roots to encourage them to kind of put out roots, absorb lots of micronutrients, and therefore help keep the plant happier, healthier, stronger. And I only did that about a month ago, but if you have a look there, you can see that huge aerial root that's already started putting out into the sphagnum moss, which is amazing. It's also got some really fantastic roots down here as well. So I just feel really proud and really chuffed with this plant. It's, yeah, I think it's probably up there with the, it's hard to pick favourite plants, but I would say top 10 in my collection for me currently. And then next up, I've got my Anthurium radicans, and the texture of this one's leaves is just incredible. Like, it's so cool, so different to anything else that I own. And as you can see as well, it is getting ready to give me some new growth, which is very exciting. This is one I got last year from Arrow's Market in my import order where, oh my goodness, there was a little bit of drama in that order and I did lose one of my favourite plants. But this one has made, I was going to say a miraculous recovery. This one has actually just been amazingly hardy throughout the entire process. Like, it hasn't given me any grief at all. You'd barely even know that it was an import. But yeah, again, I'm just doing the same thing as I am with my Pallidiflorum, and in fact lots of my Anthuriums with sphagnum moss at the top here, and this actually is starting to feel a little bit dry, which is often for me a sign that the plant is ready for a drink. So I have found that this one is slightly thirstier than some of my other Anthuriums, so despite the fact that you can see some moisture still down there at the bottom of the pot, I would say it's probably getting to the time where it needs a drink. But yeah, it's growing very happily in the spot that I've got it in here. I've collected some pollen from it recently as well, so I'm hoping I might be able to potentially hybridise, cross-pollinate this plant. I have heard mixed things about the radicans. I've heard that if you attempt to actually pollinate the radicans itself, everything it produces will be sterile. If anyone knows more about this, please let me know. But yeah, I've collected some pollen in the hope of potentially pollinating another plant. But I don't know yet. I don't know. But yeah, I will keep you updated with this one and I'll let you know what I decide. And then just here I've got my Boston Fern, and I actually made a care video on this plant not that long ago because this is one of the plants in my collection that I think I've probably struggled the most with over the years. Don't get me wrong, I love the Boston Fern, but I have killed several Boston Ferns in my time and I can just find ferns quite difficult. I know they are perhaps slightly higher maintenance than some other house plants and they do require specific conditions, or like if you don't have like the ideal home environment, they require specific conditions. But the Boston Fern is one that I had a really hard time with, but I feel like I've turned a corner with it now and she's been looking absolutely gorgeous and giving me lovely growth for the last kind of 8 to 9 months now, and I just feel really proud of this one. So yeah, as you can see, I have got her right in the window here. She is getting some full sun, which is quite contradictory compared to what some people would say, but she seems very happy. I haven't had any scorched leaves, so I think because the sun here isn't that strong at the moment, it's probably okay for her. And then not a huge amount to show here, but this little stump in a pot is my Anthurium regale, and this is an Anthurium that I have had so many battles with over, I was gonna say over the years, but it actually has been the years now. I got this one 2 years ago and oh my goodness, I got her on the Equigenera stall at the Rare Plant Festival and I picked her up and she had a leaf like that big. She was gorgeous. I could not believe it. It's a plant I'd wanted for ages. I got it home and literally within 24 hours that big beautiful leaf was turning yellow and dying off and I was like, oh god, what a shame. It's obviously just acclimation issues. And so there began the journey of attempting to grow my Anthurium regale back, and I have not had the best luck. She has given me some leaves over the course of me owning her, but they've all just been a little bit warped and a little bit weird and they haven't looked very healthy, and then I've had pests and then I've had root issues. There's just been one thing after another. So most recently I've changed up quite a lot for this plant in the last couple of months actually. I've taken her out of my cabinet, I've changed up what I'm growing her in. I can see she's got some really good roots in there and is finally starting to put out a new leaf. So I do hope that this is the start of the success story for this plant. I'm thinking maybe I might have turned a corner, but again, I'm gonna have to let you know about that because currently there's not enough to go on. And then another Aglaonema, and this one actually does not need to be right by the window. It is a very low light plant. I'm not quite sure why I put it there, but this is an Aglaonema Greyhound and it's so pretty. I love the patterns on its leaves. I love how kind of bluey it is as well. It's so gorgeous. And it's also got these lovely white stems, which I think are just adorable. But yeah, as I say, it can grow in much lower lighting conditions than what I've got it in here. I think I just put it up there to save a bit of space and make those shelves feel a little bit more full. But yeah, doesn't need to be there. And the last one I've got up there, every time I take this plant down, I feel like I'm gonna just wipe everything out. It is my aloe vera that is firstly outgrowing its pot, like massively. It is in desperate need of a repot, but it's also just got so big. I've grown this one from a teeny tiny pup, and in fact it is now starting to give me teeny tiny pups in the soil as well. So I don't get me wrong, I really like this plant. I really do. I really love it, but I also don't know how upset I would be if I didn't have it anymore. So it is one that I'm contemplating maybe finding a new home for. Also, as I say, just because it is growing relatively quickly and it is like such a space hoarder, I do feel like there's other plants I'd like to add to my collection and I could put them in the spot that this one's currently in. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now. And coming down to the next shelf, let's in fact start with this one that's hanging off the shelf. And I'm really sad that this one's not looking happier to show you today. This is my Nepenthes. And up until recently, this plant has been doing so well for me. It's commonly known as the monkey jar plant because it produces these little jars, and it is a carnivorous plant. Flies and small insects basically get collected in here and the plant digests them and it makes its own fertiliser that way. And I was getting on so well with this one, but it's one that's very sensitive to the type of water you give it, and I completely ran out of distilled water a couple of weeks ago. I didn't have any rainwater collected, so I did just water it through with tap water. And honestly, who knew a plant could be so sensitive? Because since I've done that, it's lost so many of these lovely little jars that it's produced, these little pitchers. These ones are all starting to die back. I've just trimmed them back so they're not looking brown and horrible. And the plant's just not been looking as happy as it was before. So, I mean, it's definitely been a kind of like live and learn thing. I didn't know that this plant should only have distilled water, but as I say, it's not that readily available here. I usually have to order it on Amazon. And this is a plant that likes to remain consistently moist at all times. So yeah, I've definitely learnt my lesson and I will be doing things differently. But yeah, in theory, it's one that I love. I'm just a little bit upset that I have messed things up with it. But again, as I say, that is how you learn. I'm trying to just think of it as a learning curve and not get too upset about it. And then here I've got a little crassula. I can't remember the exact name of this one actually. I think it's a Marnie Neriana or something. I'll put the name on the screen, but I just think it is such a jolly little one. I think it's so fun. To be honest, it's not one that not one that I give a lot of time to in my collection. It doesn't require much care is I think what I'm saying, and therefore I don't really need to do anything to it very often. But it's just an adorable little plant. It's growing very well for me. I think its new growth is so pretty, and yeah, it has yet to give me drama, and I've had this one for a few years now. So although I haven't got a huge amount to say about it, I do really love it. And then behind it just here, I've got, and oh my goodness, look how beautiful that leaf is. This is my Anthurium bullatus. And again, this is an Anthurium that I struggled a little bit with last year. I have been so excited to grow this Anthurium, but I just haven't been able to strike the right balance with it. And every single leaf it's given me so far has been very kind of brown and crispy, despite the fact that my humidity levels are high and I felt like I've been doing everything right. But as I've mentioned already in this video, I have tried, at the moment I'm currently just trying to educate myself and I'm trying to try lots of things and learn about different types of Anthuriums, and I've completely switched up what I'm growing this one in. This is pretty much completely pure bark, perlite and tree fern fibre. I've got a little bit of soil mix in there as well, but that's the majority. And I'm also keeping it much damper than I usually would, and its root system is in a much bigger pot than I would usually use. And although this is its first leaf, this is 100% the healthiest leaf it's ever given me since I've owned it. So I kind of feel like I'm getting things right so far. It will be definitely a work in progress and I'll have to wait and see what the plant does next. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. It could also grow to be huge. And if I could get these leaves ginormous, I would be so happy because I'm such a fan of these lobe leaves. I think they're just amazing. And next to it, there's not a lot to show. It looks just like an empty container, but this is actually an Anthurium warocquianum. And I'll put a picture on the screen. I'm pretty sure I took a picture. I'll put a picture on the screen of the teeny tiny leaf it gave me the other day because, oh my goodness, it was so adorable. And classic Claire, I accidentally dropped the plant and I snapped that leaf off, and I was so sad about it. Not that I think that leaf would have gone on to like get much bigger than it already was, but still I was just gutted because it was so sweet. So yeah, currently not a lot to show, but I love the Anthurium warocquianum. It is the queen Anthurium, and I'm hoping to be able to grow this one beautifully this year, but currently looks like a stump in a pot. And this is another beautiful Aglaonema. This is an Aglaonema zebra feathers. And this one has also, this has been probably out of all of my Aglaonema the most dramatic Aglaonema. And I think, to be honest, that's partly just because I wasn't providing it with the right lighting conditions. I had this one over in my kitchen until fairly recently, and it was growing well, but during the winter months, it did start to kind of cycle quite a lot. Its older growth was dying back. And some of you told me that apparently that was because it's got white stems, that can be a reason, but I haven't found that to be a pattern with my other Aglaonema with white stems, so I'm not entirely sure about that, but that is a very interesting theory. But I did move it over to the window here, and since doing that it has been much happier. I haven't lost any more growth. So yeah, I think come summer I might transition it back to the kitchen, but for now it's growing very happily here. And then I've got two little burrow's tail here. Obviously this is a fuller plant, and this is just a cutting. And I got the cuttings first. In fact, I say cuttings, it was just one, but it started to, as you can see, kind of divide and put up lots of new little ones there. But I got this one at a plant swap, and I was like, I love it so much, but I was just being very impatient, and I was like, I really want to grow a full plant. So I got some more cuttings. I bought some more, and I managed to get this plant going. However, this cutting has always looked, despite the fact I'm growing them in identical conditions and I'm growing them in a very similar substrate, this one always looks really full and healthy, whereas this one always looks a little bit deflated and unhappy. And I don't know why this is. I haven't been able to get to the bottom of it. So if you think you know, please let me know. But yeah, I'm still at some point planning on potting them together, but for the time being, I thought I'd just keep their physical substrate environment separate until I get to the bottom of the issue, but I'm not sure. Weirdly enough, actually, the new growth this one's putting out looks much healthier than it does further down. But yeah, it's a mystery for the time being. And then here I've got my Thanksgiving cactus. I got this one on the free table actually at a plant swap last year, and I was really excited because I haven't grown a Thanksgiving cactus for years and years and years. And it did actually flower for me a couple of weeks ago. I've got a dead flower that it produced just next to it here, and I was so happy that it flowered because it's never flowered for me before. And although typically personally, I'm not overly excited by flowering houseplants, it just made me feel like I was getting something right, and the plant was obviously happy. So that was very exciting. Fingers crossed it flowers again for me next year. And then I've got this little Maranta silver band, and I got this as a one-leaf cutting back in September, which was about 6 months ago now. And this is the growth it's given me so far. It's, as I say, not doing badly, but it's one that I'm kind of like, I almost am wishing I'd bought the full plant instead of just a cutting, because all of its growth is really, really small, as you can see, and I am fertilising it. So I'm not entirely sure what the reason for this is. It's also been quite slow to grow for me compared to my other Marantas, so I don't know. I'm letting it grow. I'm kind of playing about with different positions around my home, seeing if it likes one more than the other. Again, if anyone's got any tips, I would love to know them, because I think it's lovely. I do love the silver band, but it doesn't feel like I own it at the moment, because I don't feel like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's come into its own enough yet to be considered a plant in my collection. I know that probably sounds like such a stupid thing to say, but yeah, it's kind of how it feels. And then coming down to this shelf, just here is one that I can't actually pick up and show you because its tendril is currently, I've again, similarly to what I did on the other shelf, I've used the side here as a trellis. But this is my Hoya latifolia sarawak, and oh my goodness, this plant has got to be like one of the weirdest ones that I own, and one that I just feel really, really proud to own, but I'm struggling a little bit to grow, if I'm being honest. I've had this one for a couple of years now, and it's only given me two leaves. This one's a new leaf, and this one here at the back is also a new leaf. But considering I grow other types of latifolia in my collection and they give me growth on a much more regular basis, I'm not quite sure why this one's struggling so much. Again, I did think it might be down to flat mite issues, and I haven't been able to see anything to suggest that that could be the case. But as you can see, it's giving me a couple of new little leaves here, and I can more or less guarantee that within a week or two they will just turn yellow and die and fall off, because that seems to be the pattern with this plant. And I really wish I knew how to make it stop. I've heard that it can also come down to inconsistent watering, and I feel like I'm striking a good balance in that department, so I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But yeah, it's a shame because it's such a beautiful Hoya. It has also flowered for me before, and oh my goodness, its blooms are amazing. I know I literally just said I wasn't a massive fan of flowering houseplants. Hoya blooms, I feel like, are a little bit different in that category for me anyway, but its bloom was stunning. And then behind it, I've got this little aloe vera. And in my last houseplant tour, when I said this was an aloe vera, I had loads of you saying, no, it's not, it's definitely a Haworthia. And this is actually an aloe tiki tahi. I did a deep dive into it after that, and I was like, am I wrong about this? But it is in fact an aloe vera, and I think it's such a lovely little one. And back at the beginning of lockdown, I basically decided that I was going to start up a little houseplant shop, and I got lots of stock in and I propagated some of my own stuff. And one of the plants that I bought in to sell was the aloe tiki tahi, and I took this as a little pup out of the soil of one of the mother plants, and I just tried to propagate it myself. I don't know if I'd actually propagated aloe vera from pup division before. I don't think I had. But anyway, this is now what the little pup looks like. She is absolutely ginormous. In fact, I was going to say, no, this is a pup of a pup. Because that pup that I divided, that grew a big plant. And when I was back at my mum's, because I remember, because I made a video on this, I then divided that as that had given me pups. And this is now, oh my goodness, this is the grandchild of the original pup I divided. But yeah, the legacy continues. It's still growing healthily, and it's doing very well for me, and it's very pretty, and I really love it. And next to it, oh my goodness, this one has got so big, it's hard to even know how to show you her. But this is my massive Alocasia Jacqueline, and this one I got for my birthday a couple of years ago. Some of my lovely plant friends in the community all teamed up and they got me a couple of plants, and this was one of them. And oh my god, I love my Alocasia Jacqueline so much, and I'm so proud of how big she's grown. Like, just look at the size of that leaf. It is absolutely crazy. And something weird, I say something weird, something unusual that she's started doing for me in the last 24 hours is she's actually started giving me a flower. And my Alocasia Jacqueline has never, ever, ever flowered for me before. I've had other types of Alocasia flower, but this one's never flowered, and that's what it looks like. And to be honest, typically, unless, and this is just my personal opinion, but I would say unless you plan on pollinating an Alocasia, I would recommend just chopping the flowers back, because they do take a lot of energy from the plant, and I personally find that they can inhibit growth. And I have attempted to pollinate my Alocasias before. I attempted to pollinate my Alocasia Black Velvet a few years ago, and I regretted it almost instantly. It took so much energy from the plants, and the plants did end up completely dying back, and I was unable to save it. So since then, I've just decided that I don't really care about Alocasia pollination. Not right now, at least. Maybe further down the line I will. But for that reason, once I finish filming this, I will be probably removing that flower. And then another Aglaonema. I think this one is a Jubilee compacta, and it's another one that doesn't need to be in the window. Again, I'm not quite sure why it's there. This one previously did live just next to my Aglaonema stripes that I showed you about 5 minutes ago, and I think I just ran out of space and I was wanting to just free up a little bit of room. But yeah, it's been on this shelf just by the window for about 2 months now, and again, it seems very happy. It's a very adaptable plant, but if I did want to transition it to lower light, I know it absolutely would not complain. Oh, and then I've got two new and very exciting plants to show you here. And this is another one I got in my Grow Tropicals order. This is a Philodendron campii linnet, and I think it is beautiful. Just look how ruffly those leaves are. It's one that I'd wanted for a really long time, and I just decided that now was the time I was going to treat myself. So yeah, currently this is where I'm growing it, and it does seem very happy there. As you can see, it's starting to give me some new growth, which will be the first new leaf it gives me in my care, which is very exciting. But I do think it is one that could probably be transitioned to cope in lower lighting conditions as well, should I want to do that. Currently, I think I'm quite happy with it here, to be honest, but as things shift and change throughout my collection this year, I may decide to mix things up a little bit. But then another one, and oh my god, this one just blew my mind. Another one that I got in my Grow Tropicals order is this gorgeous Euphorbia Marantania, and I have already mentioned in this video how much I love Euphorbias. This is the coolest one, hands down the coolest Euphorbia I own, and genuinely I thought this was going to be about that big. In the picture it looked about that big, and it is just a beast. So right now I'm growing it just here, and this is the spot where I did grow my Euphorbia acrorensis and my variegated Euphorbia ingens before I moved them into the bedroom, and they grew huge here. So I'm pretty sure this one's going to be happy in this spot, but I'm also kind of tempted to create a specific little Euphorbia zone in the bedroom and have them all growing together there. I don't know, I just feel like that'd be quite satisfying, and I'd be able to control all of their conditions, and I don't know. Should I do that? That feels like a fun thing in my mind to do. But yeah, I'm just blown away by this one. I think it is so stunning. And as I said at the beginning of this video as well, I do have a discount code for Grow Tropicals, so I will link that down in the description box below. Oh, but then coming down to the last shelf. So I'm not going to show you everything on here just because there's not a lot to see. For example, I've got lots of like little things in cups that look like that. That's actually an Anthurium regal chunk, but if you want to hear more about these things, let me know in the comments and I'll happily go through them, but there's not a huge amount to show. I've got some of my Alocasia green shield corms just here which have sprouted, and these ones have been down here just because they've been, I essentially treat this as like my little rehab shelf. All of the plants that aren't doing particularly well, I'll pop them down here. I can monitor them a little bit better than I would be able to if they were just scattered around the room. But one thing, in fact there's a couple of things, but one thing that is making me incredibly excited that I've got down here now, and oh my goodness, this is just blowing my mind. It might look like absolutely nothing, but this is a Philodendron esmeraldense, and that's what it's looking like right now. As I say, it's looking teeny tiny and there's not a lot to see, but I decided to get myself a big leaf cutting of this for my birthday, which, as I've already said, was 6 months ago, and I tried propagating it and the propagation failed. It essentially rotted away to nothing. I kept chopping it higher and higher up because I was desperately trying to make sure the rot didn't spread to the node of the plant, and it did spread to the node and it completely rotted away, and I was like, oh, that's such a shame. There's nothing really that can be done now, but I'm just gonna leave it in my cabinet and see what happens. And about 3 weeks later, when I started to check back, I noticed that it was starting to sprout. And if you look at this again, you'll notice this doesn't actually have any roots at all. There's not even a point at which roots could grow from because there is no node. But what I think is happening here is it's starting to give me leaves, and then from the new node, that's where roots will start to grow from. Oh my goodness, it started doing it! Yay! Oh my goodness, I hadn't even noticed this. Look at that, can you see that? It's got its first teeny tiny root. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I'll put a picture on the screen of what this plant looks like when it's mature because it's so beautiful and it's one that I'm so excited to grow. And I will look back at this footage this time next year, and I want to be able to use this as a marker for how much this plant has grown and how well it's done. So keep your fingers crossed for me because I'm really excited about that one. And then in this little tub here, I've just got some Peperomia Hope propagations. I was trying it in a few different ways, and I have discovered that leaf cuttings is 100% the most effective way to propagate this plant. I've tried almost every other way, and it is like every other way has failed for me apart from this. So yeah, these are now starting to root and they're doing really well. And then at the back here, I've got my Hoya Louis Bois, which is just in a sealed sandwich bag at the moment. And I'll take it out and have a look at it because I haven't actually got it out of the bag in a couple of weeks. But this one, again, is in there because it was giving me grief, because it had pests, and this one had mealybugs, and it's had several treatments now. But I thought I would just keep it isolated just to be on the safe side. From what I can see, just looking at it initially, I can't see anything to worry about, but I think I'll probably keep it in the bag for a little bit longer just to be on the safe side. But yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It's looking a little bit raggedy at the moment, which is very sad, but yeah, this is another form of the variegated Hoya Bella, and it is just a lovely plant. And this little sad looking one is a Philodendron Kerala hybrid. Again, this is in Rehab corner. This one has been chopped up and I'm starting from scratch with it. It's got some lovely roots in there, but yeah, I decided to chop the mother plant up a while ago because it just wasn't doing particularly well. It has got a new leaf coming there though, which is quite exciting. And I've got this Philodendron Silver Sword, which as you can see is in a bag. It's been chopped back. Again, not looking particularly healthy at the moment, but just to reiterate, this is my Rehab corner. Stuff down here, I am aware, does not look great. It's on the mend though, which is the most important thing. And then coming down here, I've got another little Sansevieria, which I think is a very exciting one. This is a Sansevieria Bantel Sensation, and I just love how dramatic this one is. It's so like, I mean, this might sound like a silly thing to say because I know all Sansevieria is very upright, but it's just a very, like, I don't know, like a very sturdy Sansevieria, if you know what I mean. Like, you almost feel like you could spike yourself on it because it's so pointy. And I just love the contrast in the dark with the white. I just think it's so unusual and so gorgeous. And then I've got, oh dear, a little lucky bamboo next to it, which I think Ross picked up the last time we went to a garden centre, and I said I would change out its water or put it in soil, and I haven't done either, and now it's very dry and it does need attention. So again, I'm going to put that to one side, and I will do that after I finish filming this because I completely forgot about that one. And then I've got my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma here, which is actually doing really, really well again now. I had a little bit of drama with this plant earlier in the year and I did chop it right back. But as you can see, it just grows like a weed, this plant. Honestly, it just does not stop. So I've currently got it in semi-hydro. I haven't tied it to the shelves here. It's just kind of naturally climbing it and seems pretty happy. And while it's happy, I'm not planning on changing things up. And then another one that's not doing particularly well is my dragon fruit cactus. And I'm really sad about this because this is one that I picked up at a garden centre on the rescue shelf. I thought I can get this plant back to health. And I brought it home, and for about 6 months I did everything I could. I poured so much energy into helping this plant and I got it back to a really good state. And then it got thrips. It got adult thrips very, very badly. So in one of my recent repotting chats, I went through and I pest treated every single individual section. I potted it back up, and a lot of it is actually now starting to rot. Like, if I pull that out, just look at the bottom there. So I think I'm gonna have to take some cuts, let them callus and try and propagate it that way. But yeah, I'm just really gutted, really gutted about this. But then I've got lots, I won't take you through all of them, but lots and lots of Alocasia corms here. I've labelled most of them. These are Alocasia regal shields, and these ones I'm doing in the shallow water method. And this is typically how I do propagate Alocasia. I know I showed you a sphagnum moss propagation box earlier, but as you can see, these ones are rooting. And then I've got some variegated Alocasia Frydek corms in here as well, which I'm really excited about because I'm hoping I might be able to get something that's not just ghost growth. But again, lots of these are rooting as well. In fact, I can see the water in there has almost completely evaporated. So I do need to fill those reservoirs. And then up here, I've got lots of little propagations just propagating in water. I won't take you through all of them because none of those are plants that I haven't already shown you the mother plant of, if that makes sense. But this one here, Oh my goodness, this one here has been a wish list plant of mine for such a long time, and I only got it at the beginning of this year. This is a fern leaf cactus and it is just stunning. It's another epiphyllum, but I was going to say it's like the fishbone cactus on steroids. It's absolutely crazy. Just look at those leaves. And they're so thick and succulent and robust, but it also, I don't know, it gives the impression of being very thin and foliagey. And I did already have a little fishbone cactus in my collection, but it's not a particularly fast grower and I was being a little bit impatient. So what I did is I potted up the cutting that I already had with the plants that I bought, and now it's super full, super gorgeous. And I just think it looks amazing in this spot here. I love seeing the light shine through it, and the plant is giving me beautiful, beautiful growth in this spot. So yeah, that is currently every single plant I've got in this room. And I have, as I say, I have got some plants that are in the bedroom as well. So if you would like a part 2 to this video, let me know and I will absolutely take you through there and I'll show you what's going on through there as well. But oh my goodness, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I've really enjoyed making this video. If you have made it this far, comment the leaf emoji down below so that I'll know. And if you did enjoy this video as well, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's completely free. It takes you all of 2 seconds. You just need to click a button down there. It really helps my channel out and allows me to continue to create content like this, which I absolutely love doing. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. As I've already said, subscribe to my channel. Have a lovely day and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.